Welcome into the live stream here for Hand Raised Guys. I've learned this is the way to do this, by the way, Chase. I think I told you this last week. You start the stream, and then you go back and you find the audio. And
it works.
I don't know why we don't do that every morning. I guess because in the mornings we've got it kind of down to a science. But on these deals,
I think we're in more of a hurry. It's more of we're going. If we were here at 8 and just kind of set up, I do think it makes the most sense because you almost kind of preview the show a little bit too. Like you get into a little bit of a mode. I thought that was it's a little bit of a warm up act that I do think makes sense.
With Tyler, because he's so geeked up all the time, you have to kind of ease him in.
He's always ready to go.
Tyler's ready to go. Yeah, he's before the rain, he has energy, and with the rain, oh my God, lots of energy.
You really need like the whoop counter on him to watch the pulse as it goes, right? Like when we do like the golfer taking the swing on Tyler.
Well, he said his mother called him after Monday's show and got onto him because he cussed 35 times, and I said, yes, I'm aware. I was considering whether I needed to put the explicit tag on it.
The mild cussing or the good one? Like, did we get into?
We ran the gamut. Today
we didn't get into the one that Jeffrey used back in the day. That on after hours when that was going on back in the day.
Yeah, where I was like, hey, you guys have got to dial this down, way down.
Yeah, I heard something that goes, hey, did you hear what he said? And I was like, whatever. And I was like, what was it? And then we went, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, that's
probably need to Rain and Don Julio.
Yeah, that's a no.
Woo, I don't think so, Grind.
Oh, that's like that. There's that guy on social media that does that. Like, he's always putting weird combinations of stuff. People send them in and then gives it like a rating 0 to 10.
I just don't see that.
Like Surge and Rum or something.
Yeah, I don't see that. I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, no, I don't. Maybe when I was 30 years younger, perhaps.
Now you'd like to keep your heart at a decent level inside your chest, if at all possible.
I like it when they tell you, hey, your resting heart rate's good. I'm like, oh, is it really? Good. That's great. Yeah. These are things that suddenly are important to me. All right. We'll get rolling here with the podcast. So hang tight. Thanks for everybody being in the stream. I'm I'm 99% sure I've got the Skype thing worked out. I got Tyler to call it when he was here today. It worked. I've called it from my phone. I got Chase to call it this morning. It worked. So if it doesn't work, just to hell with it. I give up. I surrender.
Okay.
But I think we're going to be okay.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. We get started with this.
Welcome in Thursday night here with you, hand raised guys, Chase Parham, Neil McCready, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio for our call-in show that we hope is a call-in show later in the evening. We've got Ryan Brown coming up in, 5-8 minutes, something like that. We'll talk to him for a little while. So obviously a lot of college football with Ryan, and then our backdrops here in the studio today. We've got a Titans game, a preseason game on.
So we got Titans, Ravens. Got Giants, Patriots, and we've got the Field of Dreams game.
We do.
Which is a great idea. Doesn't change the fact that it's a bad movie.
Yeah, that's fair. That is well fact. The field is cool. I got no issue with the field. It is cool. Not the field that is the problem in Field of Dreams.
Now, what's interesting is like Joey Votto, apparently, the movie Field of Dreams is what motivated him to pursue his baseball career.
Look, we said this last time. We do this over a couple great sports movies that everybody loves. Apparently, I'm just an asshole because two of the movies that I think are completely saccharine overrated are Field of Dreams and Hoosiers. I find them both almost kind of boring. You've got to be in a place to let the sentimentality just run amok. And give me the program. Give me something let's do some steroids and butt some heads. I don't know.
I'm better with Hoosiers than I am Field of Dreams because Hoosiers was based at least loosely on reality.
Sure.
Field of Dreams is.
You're looking at the field. What are you talking about? It's right here.
Field of Dreams is kind of hard to go there. I will say, though, the one thing about Field of Dreams, I'll give them this.
Fathers and sons.
The father and son thing gets me every time. Even today, they brought out Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr.
So a bad movie and it's saved by a 90-second clip at the end.
Yes.
That's what you're actually
That's
saying.
all that salvages it from being just absolutely horrible.
Oh, God. Grind.
Never is the answer to that question. When did y'all realize y'all had voices for radio?
No. His other question. I think I like Remember the Titans more than Field of Dreams.
Oh.
And now, look, here's the problem. Remember the Titans is when we say loosely based on something.
Yeah.
It's like thrown into the ocean in the same galaxy as the movie. It's a real story.
Yeah, when people
everybody there was already integration. Bertier did not happen that way. There's a lot of stuff there. You can read about the actual T.C. Williams High School and go, oh yeah, that's not what
happened.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. I like a lot of Kevin Costner stuff, but Denzel's really good, and in that movie, he's really good.
Denzel is really good.
He's really good in that movie.
He and the other coach's kid are the two best people in the movie.
Yeah. The girl.
The girl.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name.
I can't either.
It's Remember the Titans.
Yeah, for sure. Of those two, it's a better movie.
Because it's watchable. I can get through Remember the Titans.
It is. It's watchable, and you can get through it easier than you can get through Field of Dreams. Because the whole scene in Boston that just drags out forever. You're like, oh, for the love of God, either get in the car or don't.
Oh, well, that's true. It does go too long, doesn't it?
It's too long. Either get in or not.
We might should set it up one night, tell everybody to start, and we'll watch Field of Dreams and just tear it apart for an hour and a half on a show. We could do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I don't think I have a radio voice, Grind. I think I just hopefully am knowledgeable and or entertaining enough to sit here.
Yeah. Taylor Zarzer called me and asked me if I'd do a show with him. And I said, sure. I needed the money. So I did it. I don't know that I ever felt like I really had a voice for radio. And when you do a show with Taylor, you realize I really don't have the voice.
No, you run into certain people who have voices for radio, and you go, oh, yeah, that's what that's supposed to sound like. There's no doubt about that.
Let's see. So this will be the Friday Oxford Exxon podcast. Chase, what's going on with the Oxford Exxon?
We're going to try to give money away. We've been doing that for a while now. I mean, if it's there, you might as well take it. You can do that by downloading the Exxon mobile app. It's $10 right there at the pump. Take a picture of the QR code, 1,000 bonus points, and you're on your way. coming to town this weekend. We've been telling you about the rib specials, the ribs for dinner. They can get them wet or dry, wrap them up, have them ready to go for you. A lot of stuff in the hot case. Stop on in. The lunch specials are $5.69, 2 sides, bread, and a 32-ounce drink. And you can tell them about Clark Ford.
Yep, Clark Ford. We're in the Clark Ford Studios, 662-257-1900. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today, 662-257-1900. Ryan Brown will join in a little bit on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Great place to enjoy a burger, a po' boy, an appetizer. Great beer selection as well, full bar and more. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford, and also Rafters in New Albany, and then Rafters on the Water out at Sardis. So a few things to get to. John Calipari put out a tweet today that said Kentucky is a basketball school, that it's nice and cute that they're basically...
Hold on a minute, really?
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen this?
I hadn't seen it.
Oh, you need to look this up.
Okay.
And Mark Stoops fought back, and he said, you know what? We compete in the SEC.
Ooh, I'm interested.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So last round.
What side are you on?
Look, right now, today,
yeah.
And I love basketball as much as the next. I got Kentucky basketball up right now. I'm watching Kentucky in the Big Blue Bahamas, for God's sake. I've got it on.
Is it really Big Blue Bahamas, the name of the event?
That's what Kentucky people are calling it.
Well, it's on the screen.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I think so. I think.
Well, it's SEC Network, though. They'll call it whatever the hell Kentucky wants them to call it.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, what's making the money right now? Who's making the money? Football or basketball? Who's getting the $100 million check? It's not basketball.
Okay, where is this? Did you delete it?
It was on Twitter. It may have gotten deleted today.
Did somebody else say it?
No. Calipari put out a tweet and Stoops responded. Maybe they both deleted. I don't know. All right, I'm going to get Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'll keep looking.
I don't think I dreamt it. But if I did, that's a hell of a thing to...
That would have been a little weird.
Well, that'd be weird.
I mean, I'll just go to Kyle Tucker's Twitter account. He will tell me if it's true.
Yeah, I know I didn't dream it. Journalist quoted Calipari, but Stoops' Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get Ryan on.
We'll get him.
Yeah, we'll get him in a second. No big deal. I get, though, when you say, hey, we're a basketball school, right as football's getting ready to get rolling. I get the football coach pushing back a little.
All right. So, a couple different things. First, his entire quote is much longer. Did you see the whole quote?
I did not.
Okay. We'll do this real quick. So, here, let me start this way. For anybody who hadn't heard it, let's go this way. All right. Kyle Tucker is actually who it was, so here we go. He's running a practice facility in basketball. That's what this whole thing is starting from, is a practice facility. And he says, Cal, in a quote, "This is a basketball school. Alabama's a football school, so is Georgia. No disrespect to our football team. I hope they win 10 games and go to bowls, but this is a basketball school." Stoops quote tweeting, "Basketball school, question mark. I thought we competed in the SEC, question mark." And then hashtag 4 straight postseason wins. Then here is and I'll be quick about this. Here's the full quote. "Everybody should be behind this. Our administration, look, our baseball facility might be the nicest in the country." I don't know, Cal. And I'm happy about that. Our football facility, we spent $200 million. Soccer, unbelievable. Now the track, I love it. And now I would say the administration should be like, we're doing this. How about the state? If this is the University for Kentucky, and if it's the basketball program for the state, which it is, how about the state says, we're going to invest? I'll tell you right now, Anthony Davis gave $350,000 on a text to me for flood relief. Do you know what our former players would do? They just got to see it. What is it? So that's the next challenge we all have. And the reason is this is a basketball school. It's always been that. Alabama's a football school, so is Georgia. I mean, they are. No disrespect to our football team. I hope they win 10 games and go to bowls. At the end of the day, that makes my job easier, and it makes the job for all of us easier. But this is the basketball school, and so we need to keep moving in that direction and keep doing what we're doing. I have zero problem with what he said. None.
Yeah, I don't either. But I also have no problem with Mark Stoops pushing back a little.
No, I mean, I get it. I understand. It's because Kyle was clickbaiting a little with the...
A little. Hey, Ryan, how are you? We were discussing John Calipari and Mark Stoops and who was right, who was wrong, or if they both were right. What do you think?
Yeah, I read the full quote, Ryan, of what Cal said, and I really disagreed with none of it. I agreed with all of it. Oh, sure. Sure. And it kind of helps him, too, to sort of push back in that way. I mean, he is fighting for space at that school. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, he is, for sure. He's look.
They can't hear Ryan, apparently.
Oh, can they not hear Ryan?
That's what. You can. I can hear you, too, but apparently our stream cannot.
Oh, well, that's not good. Because he's registering in this system.
Yeah, it's on your muting on something on that. It is not anything to do with our soundboard.
Okay, let me see. Let me see.
What are you watching tonight, Ryan? And we'll make you say this again if we actually hear you on the stream in a minute.
I tell you what, Ryan. Hey, Ryan, I'm gonna hang up and call you from Skype. See if I can figure this out. I don't know. I have no idea. Been using FaceTime audio all day, so it beats me.
Oh, and it was fine.
Yeah. Okay. But that's okay. We'll
he was showing up clear as a bell on our thing over here. I got no problems.
Yeah. So we'll try this.
Siski screwed it up.
I'm pretty sure it's not. But you never know. Might have poured some rain.
I'm gonna. We don't have to get him in a minute.
Hey, boys.
All right, let's see if that works. We'll see if the people can hear. They were letting us know that they could not hear you on the Rafters and Food hotline. It could be Rafters and Feud hotline if this continues like this. How are you?
I am fantastic. I was saying earlier, so that's why I think Ole Miss goes 12-0. I don't want to repeat it again, but if they can buy my subscription service, and I'll tell them exactly what goes 12-0, but I'm not willing to repeat it one more time on the show.
All right, so when we got you a minute ago, Chase and I could hear you, but nobody else could. You had no problem with Calipari or Stoops in this little Kentucky mini feud, right?
No, I didn't. I mean, I think they're both right, obviously. I mean, I haven't read, like Chase was talking about reading the whole quote from Cal. I just saw what was on Twitter from, I think it was Kyle Tucker, wasn't it, with The Athletic?
Yep.
And so I saw that. And he's right. I mean, they're a basketball school. I don't think even the most ardent Kentucky football fan would argue with you. Stoops probably wouldn't argue with you. He just doesn't want you saying it out loud. But Stoops is right, too. I mean, he just shared facts. The facts are he's got their football program better than it's probably, I don't know. I mean, Rich Brooks had some moments. How Mummy, was a fun style to watch, but he wasn't having the win-loss success that Stoops has. He's probably got their football program better than it's been since maybe Bear Bryant was there.
I talked to someone today who talked to people at Kentucky who said, look, if kind of along the lines of what you said when you and I were talking the last time you were on our kind enough to be on our network, if Will Levis does what they think Will Levis can do, they think they're going to be really, really good. Like, really good.
Yeah, I think my point to you was, if Kentucky's defense is what we have come to expect from Mark Stoops, if it's a Mark Stoops defense, and if Chris Rodriguez runs the ball the way Chris Rodriguez has run the ball, Will Levis, and this is the third if Will Levis plays to top 10 NFL pick status, how in the world is this not an East contender, right? I mean, how are they not as good as or better than Tennessee, better than Florida, better than all the other East teams, challenging Georgia? If all those things are true, it just seems to me that they could challenge Georgia. Now, I'm not saying they're going to beat them and be in Atlanta, but it certainly seems like they could challenge them if they have the type of defense we expect under Stoops, if Rodriguez is the type of running back he's been, and if Will Levis plays to top 10 NFL pick, to a top 10 NFL pick level, I just don't see how they don't play that way.
I don't know if it's me kind of having a soft spot for Kentucky, or if it's, and this is more likely, me wanting to have this massive showdown in Oxford on October the 1st. But if Kentucky beats Florida, and we've got two undefeated teams here on October the 1st, when Kentucky comes to Oxford, it's like this giant litmus test for both teams, and the winner, whoever it is, comes out of it as, hey, they're a contender, which I think's a really cool storyline, and I could probably market it and get good numbers. And maybe that's what I'm thinking. But I catch myself really cheering for Kentucky early. I want Kentucky undefeated when they come to Oxford.
I kind of do too, Neil. I mean, not necessarily just when they come to Oxford. It's just kind of a fun story. I mean, Kentucky's not threatening to anyone, especially in the West. And most of the people listening to us are fans of a West Division school. They're just not threatening, and it's just kind of a fun story. I mean, yeah. I don't know that Stoops is likable or unlikable. He's just Mark Stoops, and Kentucky football is not unlikable. I don't know. It's just kind of a fun story. I'm with you. I enjoyed. Look, I mean, they weren't particularly close games, but the fact that they played Georgia twice now. One time, if they won, they absolutely were going to Atlanta, and the other time, if they won, it was going to take a miracle for them not to go. Well, it's just kind of fun. It was just kind of fun seeing them challenge Georgia that way.
Is there a West equivalent of that?
It would be State or Ole Miss, probably. I guess that depends on how you feel about Mike Leach or Lane Kiffin, which one of those you like better. I think that's what it would be is, do you like Mike Leach better or Lane Kiffin better?
I think Lane's more of a threat.
And
I think Ole Miss would be viewed as more of a threat than Mississippi State. Like, if Mississippi State made a run, I think more people would be inclined to go, this is cute. That's just me. I could be wrong.
I mean, we cover it, but I mean, on top of my head, and I get they're not what they were 20 years ago, but I mean, Ole Miss, it's at least 3 Access Bowls in 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, they're better. No, don't get me wrong. Ole Miss has reached more heights than Kentucky has. I agree with you. If that's what you're saying, Chase, I do agree with that.
Well, I guess I more meant national landscape. I would assume we always used to Dubuque, Iowa. I would assume that if you ask him, who's not inundated with the SEC, they would be more likely to compare, as Neil said, State to Kentucky than Ole Miss, just kind of based off brand exposure for the football programs.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I would have no problem at all with that. And I do think Lane Kiffin is high profile enough that he makes Ole Miss feel more high profile than Kentucky. That's the weird thing about Stoops. Like, I mean, Stoops just doesn't strike me. I mean, well, first of all, the way he's being paid now to coach at Kentucky, I don't know what jobs he would take. But like, I mean, if Stoops won 10 or 11 games for 5 straight years at Kentucky, he still doesn't. That's an amazing job. He's clearly a very good football coach if he does that. Like, he just does not strike me as a guy that Alabama would hire when Nick Saban retires. He just doesn't feel like a guy that Florida would hire if Billy Napier didn't work out. I don't know. It just feels like he's a good match at Kentucky, and that's almost like his ceiling.
I'd like to quickly interrupt both of you and tell you that a former host on the MPW Digital Network is playing linebacker for the Tennessee Titans right now and doing quite well.
Yeah.
Where are you getting that Titans game? I'm getting Patriots-Giants, which is a good game.
Yeah, we're getting
on the NFL Network.
Getting Titans on the local. I guess this is the Memphis affiliate. We are technically in the Nashville network here in Oxford. We're in a lot of different markets. We're in the Cincinnati Reds market, which is fascinating. Titans, Braves, Cardinals. We're sort of everywhere in North Mississippi.
Yeah, we used to get the Titans and the Falcons preseason games here in Birmingham, but we don't get either anymore. So I'm limited to what the NFL Network gives me, unless I pay for the NFL Plus or whatever, where you can watch because I'm a Dolphins fan, so it's out-of-market preseason games I get there. And I'm not going to do it Saturday because Tua's not going to play. However, Chase asked what I was watching when you guys called. I was actually watching highlights from the Dolphins-Buccaneers scrimmage today because Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle apparently tore it up today. So I'm very excited.
I wondered what was happening because someone in NFL circles was saying that Jalen Waddle essentially was a better wide receiver than Jamar Chase, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a strong comment there about Jalen Waddle."
Big statement. Yeah,
that's.
Well, I hope they're right. I hope they're right.
Real quick, want to get your thoughts. The Field of Dreams game is going on. Chase here loves the movie Field of Dreams. He worships. He can cite every line. What are your thoughts on Field of Dreams, the movie?
About the game, I have the game on, by the way, and it. You know what I like most about the game? These are two crappy teams right now, Cincinnati and Chicago. No offense to you personally, Neil. I think you would agree with me. Chicago's not very good this year.
Your team traded Juan Soto. Yeah. Shut up.
My team is the worst team in baseball. They are. Field of Dreams. The best part about that game are just the views. I mean, Fox does a really good job of showing that game, and it's just gorgeous at the sunsets.
It's almost like the Marquee Network, which does the Cubs games. They do all these great camera angles and stuff. I mean, the broadcasts are awesome, and the team sucks. And it's like maybe, just maybe, you're putting your money in the wrong thing, guys. But who am I to say?
Field of Dreams, the movie, I like. Here's my only problem with Field of Dreams, the movie, is the most famous, what I assume is the most famous line in the movie is when Kevin Costner, spoiler alert, his dad's one of the players, when Kevin Costner asked his dad, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" I just thought that was a weird wording of that. I grew up in Alabama. I never called it I never asked my dad, "Do you want to have a catch?" That line always bothered me in that movie because I've never heard it worded that way.
You know, you're right, and that's the only part of the movie that salvages it, in my opinion. And yet, you would say, "Hey, you want to go throw?"
That's right. Yeah, you want to go play. You want to play catch,
or do you want to play catch? But you'd never say, "Let's go have a catch."
Never heard it worded that way, and that always bothered me in the movie when Kevin Costner would say, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" But you're right. That is the most, that's the moment that pulls at the heartstrings. That, and then when the little girl's choking on the hot dog and the doctor gives up his baseball career to come save her life. I mean, what a selfless act.
It really was. I mean, but at least he got to have an appearance, though I guess it would never technically be an at-bat because it was a sacrifice fly.
Yeah, that's a great point. So he's still 0 in his career.
Isn't that right? If you only have one appearance at the plate and it ends up being a sacrifice fly, did you actually have an at-bat?
But you had a plate appearance.
Ooh.
You had a plate appearance.
You
did not have an at-bat. No.
Yeah.
Technically, you did not have an
at-bat. So you would
technically
have never batted in the major leagues, but you'd have an RBI.
Yeah.
When you would have batted, you would not have average.
But when it said at-bats, you'd have 0.
That's right.
Okay.
So quite a conundrum. But he did save a life.
He did save a life. Yeah, because, nobody else was going to be able to perform the Heimlich right there.
Yeah, as I told them, Ryan, before you started, when I watch that movie, I have so much sugar in my teeth from it that I just can't quite get over it. Like I told him, I was like, I'm basically an asshole because Hoosiers and Field of Dreams, both of them, I just go, what are we doing here? Like it's just like, too syrupy for me.
Couldn't Moonlight Graham have said, "Hey, listen, one of you try this move first," where he could have salvaged his career and saved the girl? Like, do the Heimlich real quick.
He's still in the field yelling at them of what to do. Yeah. No, I love Hoosiers though. So you think Hoosiers is cheesy, Chase?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I get that it's more based on look, it's far better than Field of Dreams. I'm not putting them in the same category. It's sort of here on the fringe of what I'm talking about. That's all.
You know what I like about Hoosiers? What I think is funny about that one too, just random. First of all, I always liked Gene Hackman. And I don't know that I would call that one a Hackman. It's great roles. I think he's very good at it. But I always liked Gene Hackman as an actor. I've liked a lot of movies he's in. But what I think is funny about that movie is they were like, okay, we got to have one really good player. We're not going to teach an actor to play. We're just going to go get a really good player and not give him any lines. I mean, Jimmy Chitwood gets 3 lines the whole movie, but the dude could absolutely ball. And I just think that's hilarious that they had to choose, do we want to get an actor and train him to play basketball, or go get a really good player and just say, hey, by the way, we're going to pay you to be in this movie, but don't think you're going to get any lines, or you're not going to say anything.
It probably saved some time, and it means when they were doing filming, he was actually hitting those shots, right? I would assume.
Oh yeah,
Had him, we're gonna, the CGI was limited back then. We're just gonna hit the baskets.
Yeah. I mean, he basically says, "I play." In the huddle at the end, says, "I'll make it." I mean, those are his 2 lines. He basically gave the guy 2 lines the whole movie.
Hey, is this Saban Fisher spat thing? Is it really big enough for a book?
That's the one Paul's writing, right?
Yeah.
I was confused by that. John Talty was in studio with us just the other day, because John has written a book about Saban and his leadership principles, leadership skills. And apparently John and Paul are also working on a book together. This is more about the relationship with Nick Saban and his former assistants like Kirby Smart, I guess Lane, Jimbo Fisher, guys like that. I'm with you. I don't know that I'm terribly interested in that. The thing I like about this book that John's got coming out right now is he's gotten people to talk on the record. I haven't read it obviously, but John told us that everything that comes out of this book that is saucy is somebody talking on the record. And I just wonder if we're going to get that in a book that's about Nick Saban and his, coaching tree guys, basically.
Well, I do a show with Tyler Siskey, McCready and Siskey, powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. Tyler, who was on the Alabama staff the year of the Kick 6 game, he strongly disputes the whole Saban cried thing. Says it did not happen.
Yeah.
Says it absolutely did not happen. That in a room full of people that were in shock and a handful that were in tears, that Nick Saban was probably the most composed person in the room.
Yeah, I don't know. That's very, very interesting, because that certainly made headlines. Now, the part about him wanting to go to ESPN is Nick Khan talking, and you guys know who Nick Khan is. For those that don't, he now is he's CEO of the WWE, if I'm not mistaken. He's got some, maybe president of the WWE, whatever. But at the time, he was a sports agent, and anybody that wanted to work at ESPN hired Nick Khan. It's like Feinbaum hired him. Anybody that was in the business wanted to work at ESPN. He was like the gateway to ESPN. So he's apparently the guy that is on the record with all of this. Saban talked about going to ESPN after the Kick 6. I don't know who is quoted as saying Saban cried. It was surprising to me. I would, if you asked me, do you believe it? I would have said, no, I don't believe it. But I obviously was not there. Tyler was.
How's history different if Nick Saban leaves for television after the 2013 season?
I think Kirby Smart would probably be the head coach at Alabama.
Oh,
so I mean, if you think Kirby, he just won the national championship, if you think Kirby could keep it going to the level Saban had it, I don't know that history is that different, honestly. But I think Kirby would have been in 2013 the natural progression. The interesting thing is that Kick 6 game is what forced Nick Saban to evaluate his offensive philosophy. I mean, you think about when Saban made that change, that is an Alabama team that was one spectacular play away from perhaps being in the national championship game for the 3rd consecutive year. And Nick Saban, to his credit, by the way, stepped back in that situation and said, I don't think we've got the offense we need to be the best team in America consistently. So he goes out and hires Lane Kiffin, who changed Alabama's offensive philosophy maybe forever, or at least for the foreseeable future. And to Lane's great credit, he was able to come in, and Nick Saban was able to even though they didn't always see eye to eye, let him coach offense, and Kiffin changed Alabama's offense. And You assume, would Kirby Smart have done that? I don't know. Kirby has not shown in his time at Georgia that he is very much open to a wide open offense, though he's never been forced to do it either. He's been able to kind of run his old school offense and take care of the East, and now win a national championship doing it.
Tell you what, Lane acts so much like Saban in his mannerisms, like in press conferences and stuff. It's sometimes it's wild. I mean, the national media they just cannot let go of the Lane Kiffin and wild man narrative. It's not real anymore. If it ever was, and I guess at one point it was, but it's not anymore. If anything, do you agree with this, Chase? I mean, his press conferences sound so much like a Saban press conference.
From the standpoint of he's careful and honest. Like, he doesn't do some of the stuff Saban does where he sort of tries to get points across kind of bombastically and some of that stuff. But they do have the ability to, in their own individual ways, talk to players through the media, to set certain things, and to come in with messages that they then will, no matter what you ask, they're going to get to whatever's on their mind or the message at that time. Lane he's loosened up a little bit this year. He looks more comfortable. We were talking about this prior to the preseason camp, Ryan, that Lane actually didn't seem to hate us. He actually spoke in complete sentences at a level that we could hear him. Last year and year before, that was a little debatable whether he did that. But Lane appears to be in a little different place. He sort of found a rhythm, it seems, here in year 3 a little bit.
I think now he doesn't hate all of us.
It shows his hatred occasionally with a few here and there.
And hate might be too strong. There's a disdain for some that's pretty obvious. I actually think I won't go as far as to say that he likes some of us, but I think he has developed a tolerance for some of us.
Nick Saban has kind of changed in those terms. Now, he's been at Alabama a lot longer than Lane has been at Ole Miss, obviously. But and I'll say this: Saban has always liked our show. I do not know why. Jim Dunaway, one of my co-hosts, used to do Saban's Coaches Show, and he's always been very fond of Jim. But he's always liked our show. In fact, I think and I guess this is a humble brag, I don't know. I guess he's done our show, been a guest on our show more than any show in America. He's just always liked us. And we don't always talk.
I know why he likes it. I know why he likes your show. I do. You might not want to say this. Maybe you were about to say this. You guys get him on and you don't grill him on personnel and minutia. You get him. I think you let him do something that probably deep down he wants to do, which is be human. And I think you guys expedite that by treating him like as much of one of the guys as you possibly can, as with dealing with the greatest coach in the history of the sport that you cover 300 days a year. I think that's what it is. And deep down, he knows that. He probably wouldn't come out and say it in those words, but you guys let him do something that deep down he probably wants to do.
Well, and frankly, I'm more interested in that. I mean, I am more interested in fun stuff he did this summer than his thoughts on Bryce Young. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. And that's not to say we don't ever talk football with him, but you're right. We do a lot of, what did you do this summer? Movies. I don't know, just stuff. But my point was going to be, he's mellowed a little bit too. I don't know if people told Saban that, boy, you come across as a you-know-what. I don't know. Now, that's not to say, listen, there'll be some times where he's going to blow up this year. There's no doubt about it. But I just, anymore with guys like Kiffin and Saban, I think they realize everything on camera is recruiting. And they may not particularly care for the media, but if they want to portray themselves as a certain way that helps recruiting, that is a platform they can do that with. So I don't think that there's any doubt that's part of it.
I don't know why the Titans would take out a former MPW Digital host on. I mean, I guess it's because he's won the starting job or something. That's got to be it, right? We're talking about change.
I just saw Malik Willis run one in. He looked pretty good.
He did look good. He's played pretty well. I think the Titans had a really good draft, actually. I like Willis. I think he's got a chance to be a really good quarterback down the road.
He's always tied to this state because Gus Malzahn chose Bo Nix basically over Malik Willis. And so Malik Willis has always been one of those guys that that Auburn fans pay attention to are like, boy, did Gus make the right decision there? So it's interesting when you bring Malik Willis up in this state, kind of how he's viewed.
So Bo Nix is gone. He's at Oregon. Auburn's this wild card team going into the season. What are you hearing about the quarterback deal there? There seems to be some Robbie Ashford buzz.
You know who was taking the first team snaps right out of the chute was TJ Finley. I mean, if Calzada does not win this job, I'll be stunned. Well, stunned is an overstatement. Let me rewind that. If TJ Finley wins this job, I'll be surprised. If Calzada doesn't win it, I'll be surprised. If Ashford wins it, I'll be mildly surprised. I just think it's Zach Calzada's job, and everybody I talk to there that I trust says the same thing, that that TJ Finley might have been getting first team snaps, Ashford might be getting looks, but this is all them not just handing the job to a transfer, making a transfer at least come in and have the image that you earn this job. But I think it'll be Calzada's job. I have seen TJ Finley. If Auburn is starting TJ Finley this year, I just don't see any way in that situation that Harsin could take his job. I mean, TJ Finley's just not an SEC quarterback.
See, this is my thing about the West is pretty much everyone across the board is willing to concede that Alabama's the best team in the league and likely the best team in the country. And then you've got A&M with all of their talent, some question marks here and there, but tons of talent. You've got LSU kind of having some momentum in terms of people talking about them. I think people expect Ole Miss is going to be good. I think people expect Arkansas is going to be good. I think you know where I'm going here. Mississippi State's got a third-year quarterback, and Mike Leach teams typically are pretty good in year 3, et cetera. I mean, if Auburn's good, then there's going to be some losses in the West that nobody's anticipating. And if Auburn's not particularly good and all those other teams are, this thing could go off the rails pretty quick on the Plains, right?
Yeah, and, the other thing, too, that a lot of people just don't mention anymore because they focus on Bo Nix leaving and Zach Calzada transferring in and other things. For better or worse, Auburn lost 2 really experienced SEC coaches at the coordinator spot. Now, Mike Bobo, it just didn't work out, but Bobo's an experienced SEC coach. You at least have to say that. And you replace him with Eric Kiesau, who you didn't choose to hire to begin with, but you go hire a guy who then eventually decides he doesn't want the job, so you go back to Eric Kiesau and hire him. That's the guy that was with Harsin at Boise State. And then you lose Derek Mason, who, say what you want about Mason's time at Vanderbilt, but Mason was a very well-respected defensive coordinator both at Stanford and then last year at Auburn. Outside of basically the second half of Mississippi State game, Mason was a pretty good defensive coordinator last year, and you lose him to Oklahoma State. He and Harsin did not see eye to eye, so Harsin hires his Boise State guy. So you got 2 Boise State coordinators in the SEC. That is a roll of the dice in and of itself. And on one hand, you say, okay, it's the guys Harsin's comfortable with. He knows he's coaching for his job, so he's going to do what people he's comfortable with. But on the other hand, you're like, yeah, but this is the SEC, and those are 2 Boise State guys. Like I remember, and Neil, you lived this, when Dennis Franchione first came to Alabama, a lot of people saying, oh, really, Mike Price too. Franchione and Price both were like, so really, you're just going to bring those guys, all the same guys you had at TCU or at Washington State and try to coach against these SEC guys? Really? You're going to do that? And it's kind of what Auburn is doing in year 2 right now, at least at the coordinator spot.
Yeah, I don't have any idea. There's just this part of me that thinks that every time we write Auburn completely off, they surprise. That's
true.
That's my thing, and I can't kind of. I'm that way with LSU too. When people go, oh, they're going to lose a bunch of games, I'm like, listen. The reason that we were so down on LSU last year was disorganization. They'll be more organized. They have talent. They're going to be a handful, and I just can't get past that. And I think Ole Miss is going to be good, and I think Arkansas is going to be good, which makes me think the big loser in all this might be Texas A&M, who's there's expectation on Jimbo to win 10 or 11 games. And if I'm right about LSU and about Auburn and about Ole Miss and about Arkansas and even Mississippi State to some degree, they're not getting there.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating, man. If they don't win 10 or 11 games, and I know that's a high bar, but my gosh, I mean, how long has Jimbo Fisher been there, and how much are you paying him? I mean, that's got to be the expectation at some point. I know he did the 9-1 season in the COVID year, but I mean, the expectation has got to be at some point Jimbo Fisher challenges for the West. And the 1 year he managed to beat Alabama, he somehow finds 4 other losses. Otherwise, he has not been close to beating Alabama when it mattered. So if you're right, if it's A&M that's the big loser here, that is going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's the law of numbers. It's kind of like what you were saying about Will Levis, and I agree. If Will Levis is really good, then it's going to be difficult for Kentucky not to be really good. And if those other teams that we just talked about are pretty good to really good, and I think like if you told me Ole Miss was really good, I'd buy it. I mean, after what I've seen in camp, I mean, I'm not ready to go there yet, but I could see a path. If you told me LSU ends up being really good, I'd buy it. If you told me that Arkansas ends up being a pretty good team, I'd buy it. If you told me that Mississippi State was pretty solid with a third-year quarterback and all that, I'd buy that too. And if all of those things come true, they're going to lose games.
No, I mean, you're right. Either you got a bunch of 7-5 and 8-4s, or you got some good teams and some bad teams. One of the two. And I'm with you. I don't think all those teams are going to be 7-5, 8-4. Though State, I kind of like State, but boy, you go look at that schedule, and it is absolutely brutal.
It is.
I know. Look, if you're playing,
I was just going to say they're the team that's kind of interesting because you know how this is. You look at the season before the year. Chase and I talk about this all the time, and you do WWL, LWW, whatever. You don't put the emotional part in. And for State, if they get off to a bad start, things could get kind of squirrely there because they've lost to Ole Miss 2 years in a row. They kind of underachieved. They've lost some games. It would get a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of agitated there in much the same way that if Auburn gets off to a bad start, you know the storyline that's going to come out, and that becomes a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're absolutely right. If Auburn gets off to a bad start, it's even worse for them because their first 5 games are at home. So obviously you know what's coming after those first 5 games. A, the most difficult part of the schedule, and B, most of it's on the road. So if they get off to a bad start, it's doubly bad because it's going to be hard to recover when your last half of the season is playing at Georgia, at Alabama, hosting Texas A&M. Playing is the Ole Miss game at Ole Miss. Yeah, it's in Oxford this year.
Yep.
At Ole Miss, at State, hosting Arkansas. I mean, that's the last half of their schedule, man. It's brutal. It's brutal. The conference games they get out of the way in those first 5 games at home are LSU and Missouri. So you know how difficult the last half of that schedule is for Auburn, and a lot of it's on the road. So if they're off to a bad start, you can almost start writing the eulogy for the Harsin staff.
Mention State for a second there, and I'm not even counting where Ole Miss or LSU is on the schedule, but straight in a line, State has A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia.
Yep.
In a row.
Yeah, I know. I made a case that 4-game stretch, A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Alabama, I think is what you said. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and that A&M game is obviously a game that State won last year. I made an argument that's one of the you could argue, and I haven't looked at everybody's, maybe the toughest 4-game stretch in America. And I know it's kind of sneaky tough because you don't think about Kentucky, but there again, I mean, that's a team that could easily be a 10-win team this year. Alabama is what Alabama is. If A&M's any good, I mean, that's a tough stretch for State. They do have a very difficult schedule. I actually think they'll be a pretty good team, but could have the same exact record they had last year.
Yeah, because when you mentioned that 4-game slate, but that also means Georgia's waiting 2 weeks later too.
Yeah.
After Auburn, they could lose to Auburn. Yeah. That's not.
Sure.
I mean, chill. That's not. Couldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Not at all.
And that's what I mean.
It was a weird game last year. I think they were up 24-3 at the half, and the State just dominated them in the second half. So obviously they were good enough to be up 24-3 on State last year.
Yeah, Auburn had that was late third quarter, fourth quarter that was whoa. I still can't believe I saw it.
Yeah, I think Will Rogers, Neil, I think had like 3 straight completions in that second half. It was something insane like that. I mean, the ball did not touch the ground, and Derek Mason kept rushing 3. He tried what everybody had tried against State, the drop 8, and it just did not work, and he never would come out of it. And Will Rogers got no pressure, so he just stood back there and absolutely picked them apart.
We're going to talk about some better SEC teams in a second, or actual SEC teams, but Neil and I mentioned this last week, and they're talking about in the stream a second ago, just how freaking bad is Hawaii? Because Vanderbilt is over a touchdown favorite in week 0.
Yeah, and they're playing that in that on campus stadium because the Aloha Bowl got condemned. So there's only going to be like I think 9,500 people is what that'll hold, and I'd be stunned if they sold it out against Vandy.
That's advantage Vandy. They are used to that number.
I know. I did mention that on the show, and that game could be in Nashville and have 9,500 people. And that is Timmy Chang's first game as the Hawaii coach, which tells you a lot that Timmy Chang is already the head coach at Hawaii. I would say they are closer to dropping football than they are to being relevant. That feels like a program that, as everything shuffles out and all these conferences realign, that Hawaii ends up being the team that nobody is willing to go to the trouble of paying to travel to play against them. But that said, I'll be watching every minute of that Vandy Hawaii game, 9 o'clock kick, CBS Sports Network on week 0. Every minute of it.
Can't they replace the Aloha Bowl? I mean,
who's paying
they're building
for
it? Yeah, no, they're building it back. They're building a new one, but the other one got condemned. I mean, it literally was falling apart. They could not safely go into the place anymore, so they had to move to their own campus joint. I mean, like 9,500 people.
We've sent a lot of money to the Ukraine. We can't send a little money to Hawaii to build a stadium.
I know it's closer. No, it's a great point, Neil. I don't know what to even say to that.
Yeah.
I'll pretend like I'm the president's spokesperson. I'm not here to talk about Ukraine or Hawaii.
I can't talk about that up here.
Yes, that's right. I mean, if you would like to, if you would like to email a request, we'll speak with Hawaii and we'll get back to you. But I'm here to talk about the jobs report.
This might say it all about Vanderbilt. Blake in our stream says that Hawaii's average recruiting class the last 4 years is 123, and ESPN is giving them a 78% chance of winning per the FPI against Vanderbilt.
Wow.
78?
Man.
Wow. Disrespecting my boy Clark.
Vandy's favored a touchdown in that game? Is that what you said, Chase?
That's correct. 6.5 to 7.5, depending on your favorite sports book. Although Neil says Vandy's going to get somebody this year. He's been adamant about that.
Haven't they lost 23 straight conference games? Am I right about that?
Yeah, they're due.
They have,
my boy Clark is due.
Well, he's due. That guy has got to kick himself every day that he sees Marcus Freeman as the Notre Dame head coach.
Oh, can you imagine? Because he might have been in line to get that gig.
I mean, if you just do 2 and 2, he was. He was very well respected, Clark Lee was. And, I mean, there's no way he could have thought Brian Kelly was bailing on Notre Dame just a year after he left. I mean, that is just – well, you talk about crap timing for Clark Lee. That was some crap timing right there.
I don't even know who they could beat anyway, but they play 8 conference games in a row. They're the same as Ole Miss. They've got the 4 non-cons the first 4 weeks of the season, and they have 8 straight SEC games.
What are their games? Give them to me.
All of them are the SEC ones.
SEC ones.
They open at Alabama.
Okay, that's not going to happen.
Ole Miss and Nashville.
You don't think? You don't think they can beat Alabama, Neil?
I don't. They're not beating Ole Miss. Won't beat Ole Miss.
At Georgia.
No, oh my God.
Well, see, by then they're like dead already.
Yeah.
Like, here's the problem. Like, okay, their first. I mean, if we're in La La Land, their first quote winnable game is at Missouri. But really,
Missouri. No, that's the one. If they're going to win one, it's going to be Missouri. I'm not buying with that. I don't think that guy's a good.
I'm not ruling out at Missouri.
Carolina, Vanderbilt, in Nashville, whatever.
I mean, probably not. But I'm not ready to do this South Carolina thing the way that other people are.
But they're better than freaking Vanderbilt.
I get it.
Well, they are.
But okay, go ahead. Who's after that?
Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee.
Where are the games?
Lexington, Nashville.
Well, there'll be more Tennessee fans than
Florida.
Vandy fans. And Missouri's your win. Maybe Florida. Maybe first year, Billy Napier. You never know. Yeah, maybe Florida. But I think Missouri would be your best shot.
So I want to go back to that. It's not just program. You don't think Drinkwitz is a very good coach?
I don't know. I mean, he was 12-2 in 1 year at Appalachian State. And I think you bought in. Scott Satterfield was the guy that built all that. He takes over when Satterfield goes to Louisville. And he's 12-2. And I think you just bought into that 1 year. The guy has never shown he can build and sustain a program. Satterfield actually had. I think Satterfield had been the head coach there 4 or 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'd like to take a moment. Hold on, Ryan, 1 second. I'd like to take this moment to remind people that you should, based on what we're talking about right this moment, you should like and subscribe right now, because this show pushed hard for Lane Kiffin. And had we not, there is a parallel universe where Ole Miss hires Elijah Drinkwitz. I'm just saying, that's a real thing. You should hit the like button. You should subscribe. You probably should hit our Venmo at this point. I mean,
we would need Venmo at this point.
Well, we would be digging. We'd be doing shrubbery out somewhere trying to make some money.
Did you know that, Ryan, that Drinkwitz was number 2 for this gig?
No, because I thought it was Dave Doran. I thought Dave Doran was the guy. Am I wrong about that?
Wrong search. That was when Matt Luke kept the job from his interim to his full-time status. Ross Bjork wanted Dave Doran.
I think Doran's actually a pretty good coach. I think he's kind of boring. He doesn't excite you, but I think he's a pretty good coach.
In fairness to Ross, they were going to hire Doran because they felt that at that time, going into all the problems that they had, that they needed somebody who could come in, be a grinder, build the program. Boring wouldn't be the worst thing.
He fit the profile of what they were looking for at the time. So, yes, he was overruled and Matt and whatever, all that stuff. But, yeah, Doran was that. This was Kiffin trying to get the job, Drinkwitz, Mike Norvell, and then sort of fringy Billy Napier, but Billy probably wouldn't have taken it.
Yeah, Billy wasn't going to take it.
Boy. Yeah, man, Norvell's a surprise. I thought that guy could coach. Obviously Kiffin's a better coach than Eli Drinkwitz. I thought Drinkwitz felt like for Missouri a hire, and I hate this when programs do this, the Stan Heath hire. For this guy, everything else about this guy tells you, probably not a great guy to hire for a good job. Oh, wait a minute. He's gotten hot at the absolute most opportune time in the NCAA tournament. Okay, let's hire him because he took a team to the Elite Eight. And you ignore everything else that says, yeah, but you know what? He's been really average in the rest of his time at Kent State. And I know that Eli Drinkwitz only coached that 1 year, but he just felt like a guy that got hot in the NCAA tournament. He got a good job at Appalachian State. Satterfield had built it and put it in a good place, and Missouri just buys into it and hires the guy. I think he could potentially get fired at the end of this year. I don't think he's a very good coach. I really don't. And all his mouth running that he did on the Jim Rome show about Tennessee, I mean, that's fine. I don't mind coaches doing that. In fact, it's good for us, good for shows like ours. But where did this guy get off running his mouth about Tennessee? I mean, I don't know. I don't like the guy, to be honest with you.
Their athletic department in general right now is just kind of a blah mess. Because they
really are.
They came into the conference thinking they were a basketball school, and they've sucked.
That is it. They've been better in football. I mean, Gary Pinkel took them to Atlanta twice.
Yeah.
And in fact, in one of those games, if they win, they're going to the BCS championship game. It was the year Auburn won and win. If Missouri won, they were going. So, Gary Pinkel did a better job, or has had them better in football in the conference than they ever have been in basketball.
Yeah, we've had a lot of life since Trey Mason ran all over them that night.
Yeah, boy, haven't we? If there's one thing I wish that Greg Sankey could go back and undo, it's putting them in the conference. I really do. As you look back on it now, A&M hasn't done a lot. They've been more fun to have in the conference than Missouri. Now you got Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, could you imagine if you could go back and do it over again? There's so many more schools you could have brought in with Texas A&M that would make this so much better of a conference right now.
We haven't talked to you since SEC Media Days. I know you probably talked to Sankey and all that stuff. Did you get a sense as to, are we going to settle down at 16 for a little while, or do you think there's more chaos coming?
I mean, I think eventually there's more chaos. I just think nobody thinks that this is all over with. So you're obviously going to position yourself to get who you want. I think both the Big Ten and the SEC know that they can raid the ACC and pretty much get who they want out of it. I think, I keep hearing that this next round of teams that the SEC brings in, when and if they do, is not going to be based on TV markets, that they feel like they've kind of topped out on what they can do TV market-wise, that it's going to be more of cultural fit. And I hear schools like NC State and Virginia Tech mentioned that, aren't bad TV markets. I mean, Raleigh, you get some good TV markets there. North Carolina, Virginia Tech brings in, Richmond, Washington, D.C., and stuff like that. But, it's not like going out and getting USC and UCLA so that you can get the LA market. I mean, you're not getting massive TV markets, but you're getting schools that are a cultural fit in the Southeastern Conference. I keep hearing that's the model that the SEC is going to use next time they expand.
NC State, not UNC.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I don't know if there's just a feeling that UNC is like that on the Big Ten. I can't imagine that if both UNC and NC State wanted to come, that you would take NC State over UNC. I mean, that would be surprising to me. But I don't know if maybe they've gotten bad signals back from North Carolina or what. I don't know what it is. But absolutely in a heartbeat, if I'm Greg Sankey and my decision is NC State or North Carolina, and I know I'm getting a yes from one of them, either one of them, I'm going North Carolina. And I think he probably would. I wonder if what I'm hearing is the SEC assuming North Carolina is Big Ten all the way.
Having been to Virginia Tech, from a way an SEC game feels and sounds, it's as good of a fit as there is in the ACC.
No, I agree with you. I think it's one of those markets where Blacksburg is an Oxford, Mississippi, Auburn, Alabama, type town, where it's all about the university, and it's still kind of got that charm of a small town, but on a game day turns into a big city. And I know that stadium isn't what it once was. That program isn't what it once was. But imagine that stadium when the teams now coming in instead of Boston College and Syracuse and Duke or Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee. I mean,
oh yeah,
that'll change that place
for sure.
And I would love it. I mean, I think it's just I loved back in the day when those night games mattered in Blacksburg. Man, they were fun to watch.
Hey, we've kept you a long time. I really appreciate your time very much. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Look forward to visiting with you soon.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. Have any financial details been released on the Bianco deal? Do you guys have any idea what that is? I was just curious. I thought that was such a fascinating storyline with that dude that's absolutely getting fired and then wins the national championship. You just never see that happen.
Yeah, 4-year deal because that's the most Mississippi allows. $1.625 million base. It's got some incentives in there, and then we spent some time this morning. He has an interesting thing where every time he gets to another 100 wins for career wins, he gets either 125 or 250. So he basically, if he just hangs on and coaches like 9 more years, he gets an extra like $1.5 million on top of that.
Wow.
It's a good.
So he was making what, 1.1, 1.2?
He was 1-2-1 before this. He was, I think, 7th in the country before this, and he is number 2 now, only behind Corbin.
Good for him. I mean, that was fun to watch, man. I enjoyed watching them win that national championship. That was really, really cool. It's just a crazy story to see that happen.
It is a bizarre story. It was, I mean, literally, if you didn't watch it happen and you just read it, you'd go, oh, no, come on. Stop.
Yeah, get out of here. That's not happening. Wow, that was just wild. I mean, it was fun to watch. They were such a fun team to watch. I know they weren't all year, but whatever switch flipped after Hoover, man, that was a fun baseball team to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed watching them in Omaha.
Yeah, they got hot they got hot at they didn't get hot until the right time. I mean,
yeah, that's what's so weird about it. Yeah.
I mean, I started to go, they got hot at the right time, but they didn't. I mean, the time to get really hot was at the end, and they lost 2 out of 3 in the final weekend to A&M, and then they lost in the SEC tournament in the middle of the night to Vanderbilt, and they thought they were done, and They get the very last spot, and then they get hot.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't get hot till they got in. I mean, yeah, they swept Missouri and they swept LSU, but they lost 3 of their last 4 games going into the hands of the.
Well, and it's somewhat analogous to what happened in this state when Alabama first national championship in football in quite a while in 2009, and then Auburn turns right around and wins it the next year. And this state was wild during that time. I can't imagine, as big as baseball is in Mississippi, how wild it is having State win it and then Ole Miss turn right around and win it. That's pretty wild. It was fun seeing all the fans there. It was just a fun thing to watch. And I know I am months late in talking about this, but it's my first opportunity to be on the show and discuss it. So I thought I'd bring it up.
We have a couple of advertisers, the College Corner, the Rogue, that have both sold. They both sold so much championship gear and shirts, and I guess whatever term you want to use, that the
merchandise has been flowing.
They re-advertise that they've got new stuff in, and then boom, it's gone. It's been,
well,
how long has it been? A month?
Yeah, over a month. It was June 20th.
Yeah.
So my wife, her birthday was a couple weekends ago. We one of her favorite musical groups, or actually her favorite musical group, was doing a show in Athens, Georgia.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we went to see them, and man, I'm just telling you, every store we went in, it is just full of that Georgia National Championship gear. And I'm walking through there thinking, yeah, I remember that. You know, when Alabama broke the seal and then when Auburn won, that's the way it was in the state of Alabama. You couldn't go in any store without it just being tons of national championship gear.
It's old hat now for Alabama, right? They win one and everybody.
Yeah, they're
whatever.
They can barely even sell the stuff now. It's like, yeah, I don't want to get this national championship logo. It's just going to be outdated in a year.
Boy, that's spoiled, man. I mean,
it really is.
I feel so sorry.
It's crazy.
The next guy, whoever he is, I feel sorry for him. The next guy's going to have his hands so full.
You want me to make a random prediction about who the next guy is?
Sure.
And you'll say, when this happens, you'll say, I remember Ryan saying that. And there are a lot of pieces you have to put together for this guy to be the guy. But he's got a background with Nick Saban. It's not going to blow me away. If Dan Lanning is successful at Oregon and he's the guy that eventually gets the job.
No, that doesn't blow me away either. And the reason is I've heard several people say that they had their eyes on Lanning over the last couple of years if their job had opened up.
Yeah, and Saban really, really liked him. Saban was trying to convince him to leave Kirby and come back to Tuscaloosa. So Saban really, really likes him. But so if Saban and Saban will have to say, I would imagine, have a lot of say-so in that. He has earned that right. But if he's got any sort of say-so and Dan Lanning has any sort of success at Oregon, I think that's a guy Saban would definitely campaign for.
Oh yeah, so, if I'm Greg,
I don't know.
If I'm Greg Byrne, and Saban comes into my office and says, "Hey, I just want you to know that I'm retiring and whatever." After I get through telling him how much he means to the school and how we're going to name stuff after him and we want to do all this stuff for he and Terry, my next question is, who should we hire? And whoever he says, I'm going to do a deep dive into that person. And unless I find out that he's like a child molester or something, he's getting the gig.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I think there are a lot of Alabama fans that hope Bill O'Brien is so successful this year he gets another head coaching job, because I think they fear that if Saban were to step away at the end of this year or in the near future, that he might push for Bill O'Brien. And Alabama fans just I don't think they're comfortable with that hire. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the hire you want.
Yeah, that's not No.
Yeah, he likes Pete Golding. He likes Pete Golding a lot, Nick Saban does. And Pete, I'm just going to say this. I know he got a DUI. Pete had some personal demons, and what I'm told, he's gotten past those. I think he's addressed maybe a problem that led to that DUI, so that's good. And I like Pete Golding a lot. He just is not, man, he gets so criticized. Alabama fans just kill Pete Golding. and he's going to have a really good defense this year. So I don't know, man. I don't look at Pete Golding, kind of like we talked about Mark Stoops. I don't look at Pete Golding and see Alabama head coach, but I do know Saban really, really likes the guy. And if he's killing it when Saban decides to step aside, you never know if that might be the guy he goes to bat for. But my out there candidate is Dan Lanning. Just see if that ever happens. You'll remember you heard it here first.
I will, for sure. That's the first time I've heard that, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
All right.
But he's got to be good at Oregon first. That's the tough part. Got to be good at Oregon first.
Yeah, I think he will be, based on just kind of talking to people who seem to sort of have a pulse on it. I think he's going to do well there.
All right, boys, I enjoyed it, man. Y'all have a good weekend.
Same to you, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bud.
All right.
That was Ryan Brown of the Next Round. Thanks for his time. That was good.
Somebody else pulling up baseball. I just didn't say a word over here.
I know.
I'm just hanging out.
I know. Chase is like, I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
Do a thing.
It is an incredible story. I mean, it's you wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. If you just read it, you wouldn't believe it. Because they at no point.
Well, and look, the media did a bad job because, I mean, I've spent a lot of time with it. There's a lot of stuff people don't know. I mean, like it's people through hell. I mean, these months were really, really tough.
But I guess what I'm saying is at no point during the regular season did they look like a national championship team. Even at the beginning,
they didn't look like a national championship team when they were number one in the country. The players are admitting it, going, "Yeah, we knew that."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They never looked that good. I don't care about the ranking. Next year, when y'all do rankings in February and March, I'm going to say stop. I don't want to hear it. Just quit. Nope.
Because they're going to be like preseason 9 or something.
Yeah, I don't care. Or whatever. I'll wait. I'll say, talk to me in late April. Let me see some games. We'll stop. They didn't look like a championship team, frankly, until they got to Hattiesburg.
No, but you can boil it down, though. While you're right, all the way around, and we're going to take calls. I'm not sticking on baseball right now. But if you really boil it and go, what happened? The combination of figuring out that Dylan DeLucia, Hunter Elliott were your 1-2, and Kevin Graham not just coming back from injury, but being comfortable in 100%. Those three things were the three things that allowed it to be possible and that changed the dynamic of their team that they had at no point prior in the season. I mean, Dylan DeLucia didn't pitch until whatever week. Hunter Elliott didn't throw a pitch against South Carolina at all. Like, there were 2 or 3 roster change lineup moves that at least put them in position to be sort of the team you thought they could have been. I guess put it that way.
Sure,
because those things didn't happen until the end of the season for the most part. But yes, no, they were a catastrophe for a good bit of the season. They were 7-14.
Yeah, I do remember telling you there were some signs that they might be they might have a pulse when they lost 2 out of 3 to Arkansas.
No, they played better. It's what everybody's talked about. I mean, I've written a ton about it. Is they just didn't think there was time left.
Because they kind of wasn't.
They were just out of time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you looked up and, you went, okay, well, Missouri's there, but then go to Baton Rouge. I mean, Ole Miss literally had never swept LSU in Baton Rouge. You couldn't go, that's 3. We're going to go get 3 there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then Jacob Berry's out, and then suddenly this happens, and it just starts rolling downhill.
But then they lost 2 out of 3 to A&M, and they lost to Vanderbilt in the opener of the tournament. It wasn't like, that's my point, is people are like, well, they got hot late. I'm like, no, they didn't. They had 2 good weekends, but they closed with kind of a dud.
It was so close to the story being they got so unlucky against Vanderbilt because they held that freshman All-American and didn't throw the weekend before.
Yeah.
And you went, oh, hell, now another thing. And
I mean.
Because they played okay that night. They just lost.
Yeah. Yeah. They weren't bad. They just
didn't win.
All right. We're going to open phone lines. I need to put this. There's
Ryan. A new number.
Yeah, I'm going to get Ryan off there. I'm almost nervous about this, but there's the number.
You don't know who's doing the hottie toddy for the opener?
I mean, I would guess it's Bianco, but no, I'm the last person that.
I would assume Bianco does whatever game they're being celebrated or announced, though, right?
I mean,
instead of the opener?
I think you could pull it off twice.
Think so?
259-8563. 259-8563.
Brian makes a really good point. Auburn beating Oregon State was a huge thing in this, too.
Of course it was. They caught every break possible.
You're not facing Jerpy. You're facing Auburn. No offense, Grind.
No, I mean, he's right. That's who you'd want to play. All right, so that's the number 662-259-8563. I think it works.
The Cubbies beating the Reds 4-0 in the 5th inning.
Drew Smiley's been really good for the last month, and if I'm the Cubs, I think I'm finding a way to hang on to him.
I hate these pinstripe batting helmets.
Yeah, it's a throwback.
It's awful.
I love this Cub uniform right here. This one,
yeah.
They could incorporate this because the Cubs road uniform is just.
I know you're not a baseball guy, Grind, but I will say I was talking to Mike the other day, and he was raving about Joseph Gonzalez, the ace for Auburn, next year, completely healthy, getting better. Apparently, Mike believes he's one of the top 2 or 3 pitchers in the league next year.
He pitched for him on the Team USA team,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Where would we rank the back-to-back-to-back home runs among moments in Ole Miss sports history?
I mean, it has an argument for number 1.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it all depends on what you place importance on, and it's impossible for anybody to answer for somebody else. But from it being a national championship game, it being something that hadn't happened in 24 years in the College World Series, to putting that game away, to the fact that there was 26,000 in the stands and 20,000 were Ole Miss fans, and what it sounded like as much as anything else, yeah, it's got an argument for number 1. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I love this Cub uniform. You could throw this in 10 times a year, and I'd be all in.
You're good with it?
Yeah, I love the hat as an alternate hat.
The colors are taking me. I feel like I'm watching the Indians. Guardians is my only little bit of issue that I have right here.
Offended. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure, but
I mean, I'm cool with it. I like it well enough. I mean, hell, I like Vanderbilt's red and blue uniforms.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I'm just saying you could throw this out as a 10-game uniform, and I'd be all in.
Yeah, sure. That batting helmet is awful.
Yeah,
because it's not the same color either. Like it.
Yeah, the top is white and the helmet's cream.
It doesn't work at all. Are you concerned it's not working?
I mean, a little bit, but I'm going to try it right now because I'm curious as hell.
I think everybody's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, I think people are just chilling. I mean, if no one believed it would work, I'd buy it. I mean, I'm with them. It works, so I'm good.
That was loud.
How about that? It does work. So after last Thursday night, it ought to damn work because I stayed up and I tried everything. And it still didn't work. I went to bed and I got up on Friday, and I don't know exactly what I did, but I fixed it.
You tinkered until it finally.
I'm so much better. I'm so much better. What's the word? Technologically.
But honestly, you're right for a result. What you are, though, is more calm and intuitive. That you're willing to play with it.
That's probably true.
5 years ago, you wouldn't be willing to play with it.
True.
It's just the damn thing is broken, and we're going to go throw it outside and beat the hell out of it with a baseball bat.
Yeah, no, I just kind of took some breaks, and I would come back in and go, okay, let's think about this. Let's think about this.
Figure out how this is supposed to work. And
then I had a breakthrough, and I sent you a message, and you didn't respond because I guess you weren't there, and so I called Tyler.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I said, call this number, and he goes, what number is that? I said, it's me. Call it. And I set up I put it on record only on eCam. And he called, and I'm like, oh, that worked. And then I got Jay Tate to call. He was driving back to Auburn from Huntsville, and he called, and it worked.
Eureka.
And then I got Laura, my wife, to call, and it worked. And everybody's like, what number is this you're calling me? Just call me. Trust me. And they called, and it worked. And I was like, okay, son of a gun.
Fair. Well, how much were tickets for this? How do you get tickets for this?
So supposedly tickets are out of sight. Like this is like
because it doesn't hold, but
right.
Whatever.
This is an incredibly difficult ticket.
Really?
Yeah, people pay. It's the average ticket price is like 14 times more the typical ticket at Wrigley or.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Eric says being there for all back-to-back-to-back Florida Tebow stop and Bama 14, thinks the home runs were number one.
I wasn't in Omaha. I was at Florida, and I was at Bama 14. Bama 14 was bigger than what happened at Florida.
This is a home game, and you're in it.
And it was super hyped up.
Yeah. I mean, Florida was an upset.
Yeah. Florida was an upset, and that ended up being a really good team, but that day it just felt like...
They lost to Carolina the next week.
Yeah, and they lost to Vanderbilt the week before.
Yeah. Ugh.
The 14 game felt special. Like that had a feel to it, like, oh, you'd arrived.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't in Omaha, so it's hard for me to say what that felt like.
It's just so hard to compare football and baseball.
Yeah.
It's just... Because, it's what's weird is everybody does back-to-back-to-back, even though the next day was the more dramatic thing. I mean, Ole Miss was winning 4-2 when the back-to-back-to-back happened. It just went to 8-2 off the home runs.
Yeah.
The next day, when they actually are putting it away to win the national title, but it happened so fast that it's almost like people didn't really register that they were 3 outs away. It had almost like this nervous dull to it a little bit.
Because
it's wild pitches.
The kid from Oklahoma was really good for a long time.
Yeah.
And then... to the point where you thought, oh, there is going to be a third game.
Yeah.
Like he was dealing. I'm hopeful that he can continue to do that for about 15 years. But
no, dude, I know you didn't love him at that pick, and I understand it was probably a little high, but I went through Creighton's analytics for the College World Series. His TrackMan stuff is out of sight on spins, and I mean, it's real.
Well, and the Cubs are real into that. The Cubs have, and to their credit, they have developed a lot of bullpen arms using some of the pitching stuff that they do. And they loved this kid. They loved, what's the kid that was committed to Ole Miss that was coming? Jackson Ferris.
Yes.
They loved Ferris, too, for the same reason. They loved his spin rates and stuff. They think he can get to the major leagues quickly. We'll see. The Cubs drafted 17 pitchers with their 20 picks.
Did they really? 17
pitchers. 17. So they obviously feel confident about their ability to identify and then develop pitching.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that.
And they've done a great job, like with Justin Steele from Loosedale, Keegan Thompson from Auburn. I don't know if you've watched – I know you probably haven't watched a lot of Major League Baseball, but those two guys both have developed into – legitimate major league starting pitchers. Like the Cubs can plan around them to some degree or to a lot of degrees.
Really?
Yeah, they're both really good. I mean, Keegan Thompson got overlooked at Auburn because he was on the same staff with Casey Mize. He was good. And Justin Steele's been terrific. So, and a lot of that is the Cubs developing some pitchers. Now they're going to have to go spend some money and get some bats, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I went right here and found it. I mean, you're talking about on Horton in the 6th inning, so he was at 70 pitches, whatever he was at that point. In the 6th inning, 90-mile-an-hour slider at 28.10 on a spin rate, 14 inches of break.
Yeah, that's elite. Yeah. Hey, who do we have?
What's up, guys? It's Vibin Red.
Hey, Vibin, what's up?
Nothing much. Just did the dishes and made dinner, and I'm in the process of starting to get drunk. Y'all caught me on vodka drink number 1.
Is that a good? Is that helping us versus had you been on vodka drink number 4? Are we getting the more?
Well, all right. So put it in perspective. If I was on vodka drink number 4, I was just going to come out the gates blazing and be like, "Why didn't we get Arch Manning? Damn it!"
Okay.
But
let's not do that tonight.
I was going to go.
Please.
I mean, that's going to happen at some point during hand raised guys seasons. I'm just going to go on my Arch rant, but no, we're not there yet. No, but how y'all doing?
Oh, we're good. Just
we're not in mid-season form. We're getting
although
broken in a little bit.
I'm thrilled that the phone
is
working. You
the
have no
thing
idea.
happened. I was at a friend's house and I kept going outside to try to call, and y'all got a new number for this thing, right?
Yes, we did have to get a new number. That was one of the steps to trying to make this work again. I don't know what happened the night that Ole Miss won the national championship, but everything went to hell.
It had worked for years. That day.
And it had worked for – I did those post-game shows. I did the first one I did the first one when Ole Miss, I guess, won the regional, and then I did one after both Southern Miss games. I did one after the win over Auburn, the win over Arkansas, the loss to Arkansas, the win over Arkansas, and the first win over Oklahoma, and then it decided to stop working.
Damn.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I think I was like
damn's the
I
mild.
tried to call that Sunday night when they won it, but I don't think I ever got through. I think the line was it said the line was busy, so maybe it wasn't working. I don't know.
I don't know exactly either, but damn is.
It was a big old cluster.
Yeah, damn is the mild version of what I had to say that night. Yeah, for sure.
I got you. I'm excited, though. High school football starts. I'm literally watching football on a TV screen, and it feels right. This offseason with what Ole Miss did in baseball kind of made it go by a little bit faster because you were just so into the postseason run that I really didn't think about, man, we still have like 2-3 more months until football. But, I mean, I think they won a natty, like a month ago?
June.
A little over a month ago?
Yeah, it made for a weird summer because I looked up and it was like July the 4th, and I was like, I'm going to take some time off, and I took some time off, and I come back and the camp starts in a week. And so, yeah, the summer went really quick.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I feel like y'all went from basically – had y'all started the hot board yet or before the postseason run?
There were 3 or 4 content items in the admin at the end of the regular season.
There's still one in there, by the way, that we've got to do something with. I'm just.
I need to save it though because I might use that later.
Yeah. I need you to go in and save it because I almost hit it the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah, by accident. Yeah, we had 3 or 4. Chase did. I didn't have anything. He had 3 or 4 content items in there that was going to run on that Monday.
There was a season obituary, a Mike obituary, a hot board, and then kind of a personal thing about covering Mike, all in the admin that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who had the more weird summer, you guys or Keith.
Both.
Keith went from, I feel like, about to make a very difficult decision to being like, holy shit, please just win the whole thing so I never have to.
His was at least decided, though, when they win in Hattiesburg.
Yeah.
His at least, because he's not firing a coach in Omaha.
He went from having to execute a very difficult decision to giving a coach basically a lifetime contract.
Yeah. Now he's probably going to watch the basketball season and be like, all right, we did it in baseball. Let's do this in basketball so I don't have to make another hard-ass decision.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're recruiting good. I don't know.
They're recruiting okay. They're recruiting well. Look, there's already people that are trying to change this narrative a little bit to, well, they're recruiting well, and so let's give more time. I do think there's more to it.
You're on year 5.
Yeah, I think they've got to either be a tournament team or super close to a tournament team that looks like a tournament team. Like, young players are really going to have to play really well.
It's going to have to be the young players, or it's going to have to be the transfers they brought in. And quite frankly, the transfers were really lackluster. They just weren't.
Well, we haven't seen Josh Mbala yet, and so he didn't play in the Bahamas, and I do think he's probably their best transfer. And then, look, a lot of this is going to depend on whether Deshaun Ruffin can be who he is. I wrote this on the message board, and I feel like I'm being negative, and I'm not trying to be, but Deshaun's a 5'10" point guard whose game is built completely around being explosive. And when he's explosive, he's really tough to handle. But if you take away much of that explosiveness, suddenly you have a 5'10" point guard who's a liability on defense and is one-dimensional on offense. And that's not winning SEC games. I don't know like how much SEC basketball you've watched in the offseason. I watched Kentucky some tonight. I've watched Alabama.
I watched a little bit of Auburn.
Yeah, I've watched Alabama on a stream. I've watched some Arkansas on a stream. The top half of the league is going to be really good, and
Arkansas is going to be a freaking bear.
They have 3 or 4 dudes that are so athletic that, like, if you don't have an explosive Deshaun Ruffin, guarding Nick Smith Jr., then you've got to get him off the floor.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's just because I honestly think Ruffin 100% healthy and Morrell on the same court, like that opens up a lot of what they can do. Look, that's just two guys compared to a whole roster where, you got to get guys to contribute. But at least those two 100% healthy, I feel like.
Gives you a shot.
They're fun to watch. They were a couple games where, Ruffin was just fun to watch, period, last year when he was healthy. And then Morrell had a couple big games. I think they beat State that one game, and I think he went off and
had
a
one or something.
A really good game.
I'm curious.
He was.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was curious at your message board post earlier today because I had forgot that Dink Jackson even existed. And you're saying he potentially is a guy who would have been a very integral part of this team.
I absolutely think he would have. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because, it was when they signed that kid, almost 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Or when did he commit?
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
I remember putting on his tape, though, and watching him play, and I was like, that kid's either going to be the tweener that they like to have, that I think they're going to have Tennyson and Aisheem Young be, or they're going to bulk that kid up and turn him into a just hard-hitting linebacker. And then, he was probably the kid I was most excited about, just because I hadn't seen an Ole Miss player hit that hard on their high school highlight tape since Denzel Kandichi. I don't know if y'all ever watched Denzel's highlight film in high school, but literally every play was just hitting the hit stick on a remote. Could fly, hit gaps, all that stuff. I honestly think he would be a very big part of the defense if, I don't know. Chase, you remember what he did? He
it was
broke into 3 separate cars.
Yeah, it was some semblance of auto theft of some extent. Yeah. I go back and look, I could find his. I have his docket thing, but I don't know where it is off the top of my head. But yes.
Do y'all disagree with that though? Do y'all think they weren't recruiting him as a linebacker? Because I thought they were.
Yeah, I do think you're right. Is that he was that guy that could move up or down or do whatever. Which is I think that's what I said earlier. It's a problem because if they had 2 real linebackers, they wouldn't be doing that. However, at the same time, more than comfortable to move a guy up or to play situationally with a guy who can really go sideline to sideline and execute speed that also can tackle a little bit. Like you said, like Tennyson. Tennyson is a linebacker, no matter what you want to do with him.
Yeah. And honestly, that's kind of segueing into football and what I think this team's kind of biggest question mark, obviously quarterback. They got to figure out who the quarterback is. But look, I'm very hopeful that once they settle in and make a decision, hopefully it's not a quarterback battle into week 8. God, if that's the case, then I feel like things may have went haywire. But it's getting the starting quarterback settled in, and then it's defensively, what can they do at linebacker? Because, Otis Keys looks like a friggin' animal, but, he didn't really play meaningful snaps before he got hurt last year, and Troy Brown, looks like a tackling machine, but that's an adjustment going from what conference was he in to the SEC. That's just, I feel like there's a lot of question marks there. I feel like defensively, though, against teams that can't really run the ball well, I think they're going to do great. I think they're going to do very well against teams like Mississippi State, where they just have a bunch of dudes that are hybrid safeties and can cover at linebacker. But, when you start playing Kentucky and Auburn and LSU and Arkansas and A&M, those teams are going to be able to run the football. So if you can't stop the run, But I don't know. Yeah, that's do y'all think there's anything else that's a bigger concern than linebacker right now defensively?
No.
I think it's the big question mark.
No, I still would I'd like to see a little bit more just evidence before I go crazy about defensive line. They've got a bunch of bodies there, and they've got a handful of guys that I think can be impactful, but I'd like to see them do it together a few times before I just go crazy.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't want to name names.
They're going to be good at receiver, and I think they're going to be good at receiver, and I think they have more depth than they did last year at receiver.
They have more people at receiver. Like I think they're going to be fine at receiver because I think Malik Keith is going to be a dude.
I think Mingo's got to be a dude.
I think Jonathan's got a real chance to be a dude. And then after that,
I like Jalen Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson. I think Knox can give him something.
The question is, do you get anything out of Braylon Brown?
And
then what exactly is Jordan Watkins? I like him well enough, but what is he?
Yeah. And then, look, I cheer for Danis. I like Danis. People do the Danis thing, but I've got to see it before I go down that road and go, oh yeah, Danis is going to give them a lot. Like I think there's a decent chance. I'll give you a name that I think has a chance to be impactful for them. Is J.J. Henry. He's done some.
Yeah, J.J. Henry was the one. I think if they have young guys step up, it's going to be Brown or Henry. Honestly, I think. Well, I saw a note they moved. What was the walk-on?
Rafe Vincent. They moved
here. He was from a prep school in Mississippi, and he was doing really well in camp last year, and then he got hurt. I saw they moved him to safety.
Yeah, Rafe.
So I was like, well, maybe there's some depth there that they didn't have last year at receiver.
This is not a knock on.
I can't remember his name.
His name is Rafe Vincent, and this is not a knock on Rafe. But this is why you've got to be super careful with spring football.
Yeah, 100%. But all right, Chase. We haven't talked about this in a while. Yesterday I took Saints 8.5 win total over. I think they're gonna win 11 to 12 games.
Whoa!
Because I've been keeping up with training camp, and it does in fact look like they can't guard Mike anymore. Like he's back. Like can't guard Mike is back.
We've got
to
throw the ball down the
really
field. I'm so tired of possession. I get Michael Thomas is not a possession receiver, but they got to get down the field a little bit. They've got to get out of what they had to do for Drew because he couldn't throw it down the field and actually get down the field.
Yeah.
I'm not down on them. I think the only path for them, and I guess I'm saying I don't think they're a great regular season team. I think they can be dangerous in the playoffs because of their defense and for the ability for Jameis to get hot for a game. But I don't know that I think they're about to go be the 2 seed in the NFC.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I feel like all the smart money's on LA and Tampa because, of course, they have Brady coming back, and that was about it. I think everyone saw Sean Payton left, and they're just kind of thinking they're not going to have a residual effect from having all these great players. Because I think we're going to have a top 5 defense, and I completely forgot that we signed Jarvis Landry until last week. That was just kind of like a sneaky news thing that I forgot. I was like, holy shit, Jarvis Landry's in the receivers room too. So yeah. They got guys Jameis can throw to, but they're going to have to stretch the field more than they did last year. Because even though I think they were, 5-2 before Jameis got hurt?
Yeah.
You could just tell that offense was limited, even though they were winning.
They're a playoff.
But I'm excited.
I do think they're a playoff team.
I do too.
And I'm thinking about it more and more. All you're doing is needing a winning record. I think 8.5, the over is the play. But it feels like it feels like 10 and 7.
Yeah, I've got the Saints at 10 and 7.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, but all right, guys, appreciate y'all taking the call.
Thanks.
All right, thank y'all.
Look at that, a call that worked.
Yeah.
How about that?
I almost accidentally doxed him. I almost said his real name. I didn't mean to. I caught myself at the last second.
Yes?
Nothing. I'm seeing what we had on TV,
too.
I'm just kind of glancing
kind of
around.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Some SEC show that they're doing. I don't know. They've
Cutwater Spirits.
Hendon Hooker's on there now.
Are you a seltzer guy?
Not really.
No, too sweet?
No, just doesn't do a lot for me, and I'd prefer
even like at the pool.
I'd prefer to drink a beer.
I didn't know because there were fewer calories. Would be
I really like beer.
Okay.
So many of my weight issues would disappear if I didn't like beer. But I really like beer.
He said that with such adoration in his voice.
I do. I really
like
beer. Like people like. Do you like IPAs? I'm like, yeah. Pilsners. Yep. Pale ales. Yeah, I do. Stouts. Unfortunately, I really.
Oh, a really good stout. Now you only need a little bit because it's heavy as hell. But
I really like beer. And people are like, oh yeah, it's just in the summer. I'm like, yeah, in the winter. And in the fall.
That chocolate stout somebody sent us that time was really. Killed that a little bit. That's
I got to figure that out, but one technological step at a time. Hey, who do we have?
Hey, it's Steve in Greenville.
Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hey, I got a quick story for you. My cousin lives in Omaha, and I was convinced we're not going to Omaha this year. And so I go up there for my vacation. My dad calls me and says, Ole Miss made the postseason. I looked at the phone. I said, you're kidding. He goes, nope. I said, they're going to Omaha. Unfortunately, I had to go home and missed it.
Oh, wow. That sucks.
But I got a conspiracy theory for you since y'all been talking about Kennedy lately.
Okay.
This is one my doctor told me. He said that there are a lot of doctors to this day that do not believe Magic Johnson got AIDS from sleeping with women. And so the story goes that back in the 80s, you couldn't synthetically make human growth hormones. You had to take them from dead bodies. Well, who was dying in the 80s of, AIDS, in mass quantities? Young gay males.
Right.
And they said that's how Magic Johnson got AIDS. Because right after he came out publicly, supposedly there was a guy that worked at the morgue in Los Angeles that was arrested for selling body parts and stuff.
To get the HGH.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I've literally never heard this before, so you
I'm intrigued. So here's what's always intrigued me about Magic Johnson.
You actually have a thought on this?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Because when Magic Johnson was diagnosed, when that press conference was held, it felt like a funeral. Like it was not a matter of if, but when the HIV became AIDS and this big, strong, bigger than life athlete withered in front of us and died. That's what we all thought. Everyone thought that. And I understand that he took the best cocktails and all that stuff. But he's never even looked a little sick.
No?
And I've always just kind of there's always been a part of me that wondered. I mean, we're going down the conspiracy rabbit hole thing here. There's been a part of me that's kind of wondered, did he really have it?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I have run this theory by several doctors I know, and I've yet to have anybody tell me it wasn't possible.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really.
I just thought. Go ahead.
He was very promiscuous, and I think everyone knows that. He and his wife Cookie took a long time for them to get married, in large part because of his inability or unwillingness to commit, in large part because he enjoyed spreading his.
The lady.
He lack of monogamy.
He enjoyed getting around, and there was a lot there, but there's no evidence at all from anyone who has known him, and I've read so much about this. And this isn't a judgment. There's no evidence at all that he ever dabbled in homosexuality. I mean, the closest thing that people point to is like he and Isaiah Thomas before games gave that little kiss on the cheek thing. And I'm sorry, you can't leap.
You're going to need more than that.
The leap from that to he participated in homosexuality that's a colossal leap. That just no, sorry. That's not a starting spot. So the one thing people said, well, he could have been with people who were with whatever, and maybe that's it. But there's no evidence at all that he participated in that.
Well, I just thought you'd find the rumor or the conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, interesting.
Oh, I'm all.
And
yeah, that's a new one. I've not heard that. It's absolutely fascinating. Who knows? I mean, he was uber competitive. He was always looking for an edge. He had just lost to Michael Jordan and the Bulls. The Lakers dynasty was kind of felt like it was teetering on the brink of extinction. Their team was getting older. If you told me that he was looking for a competitive edge and tried something, sure, I'd buy it.
Well, I know I have a relative that's a retired FBI agent, and he told me one time, he said that they launched an investigation into athletes using sports enhancing drugs. And he said there is not an athlete in any of the three major sports, as far as he's concerned, that isn't using today. He said they have chemists that make blockers, where he says you can't do it and you can't play the way they play and not use it. So with that, whatever. But
well, with Major League Baseball players, so much of the whole performance enhancing drugs is not necessarily to enhance their performance. It is to expedite their recovery day in and day out.
And, the side effect is you get bigger, faster, stronger.
Right.
But, yeah. But, he in his personal opinion, he thought it was rampant in sports. And he said, what's the downside? You don't have to give the money back.
Sure. No, I mean, I've always said this. I understand the temptation for an athlete you have a window of opportunity to make as much money as you can. I get it. I get how that temptation is overwhelming, and you take something and it suddenly works, and you take more and you get the contract, and then, yeah, I understand. I totally see it. And then you watch an NFL game in person, especially if you can ever get down close to the field and you watch an NFL game and you listen to the collisions. I mean, I don't know how you could get through an NFL season without taking stuff.
Wow. You go back, you can go back to when Billy Cannon played. The trainer that LSU hired used to train the U.S. Olympic weightlifting team. And, I know this is the 50s, but, he gave it out.
Yeah.
Supposedly. So, but all right, guys, I enjoyed the show. Just thought I'd call in and run that by you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Are you up on the whole DB Cooper thing?
Well, I wasn't until I started reading the threads on the board. And as I told Cub in the stream, it's not a 10-minute conversation. I want to actually deep dive into this bitch a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot
I want to set up a time with you for you to call on the stream, and let's go through this. Whenever you're available, let's do a pod on it. We will, because here's the deal. We'll throw on. We'll put some DB Cooper in the search stuff, and suddenly we got a whole different group trying to listen to this
yeah,
thing.
For sure.
Yeah, that's that. It needs to be in the subject line. So yeah, if you're interested in that, seriously, let's set it up. Let's talk some DB Cooper.
Because there's a lot there.
Oh,
a lot. That's not.
I wasted time I didn't have. I just kind of kept going. Yeah, it was fascinating.
I've gone down that trail a couple of times, and I've seen some book recommendations that I'm like, okay, I'd like to read that, but I'm intimidated by. Hey, who do we have?
Yo, it's Grind.
What's up, Grind? How are you?
Doing pretty good. How about you guys, man?
Oh, doing well. Long time no talk.
I know, man. I know. But hey, like I said last year, man, hand raised guys need that football season right around the corner with the first show.
It does take football, frankly.
Yeah, it does. It just doesn't. It's not that it doesn't work in March and April and stuff, but it's just not the same. We need it. It needs football season.
Yes. I agree 100%. 100%, man. Man, and look, I don't mean to, like, boo-boo and Ryan Brown and nothing like that. Great. I know he's y'all's friend. I'm pretty sure he's, like, a great guy to have some shots with, whoop, whoop, all that great stuff. But, bro, I mean, come on, man. When it comes to Auburn, like, he's like I just don't think that he's in the know, really. Now, when it comes to Alabama, man, he can spit out, whatever. But when it comes to Auburn, man, I just think that, he's, I think they gonna suck, and, TJ
I remember the Auburn family grind.
look, okay, look, I know myself that yesterday, Robbie, okay, look, I'm gonna say this.
Uh-huh.
Can we all agree that this is a crucial year for Harsin?
Yeah, to every degree, yes.
Okay.
All right.
So, with that being said, he cannot waste any practice. Agree?
Sure. I think
Like he just can't go into a practice saying, "Hey, you know what? We're just going to try something today, see what this guy looks like at this position." No, you can't play that game. With what you got on the line.
No, but he's still got
with Robbie
weeks though. I mean, you're not launching into game plan 3.5 weeks out. You still have some experiment time, even if your job's on the line.
I get what you're saying as far as experiment time, but I mean, if Robbie Ashford was taking first team, snaps yesterday with a scrimmage coming up, I think that's telling. I don't think he's just trying to see what Ashford looks like, because from what I've heard, Zach Calzada has looked horrible against air. Not even against people, against air.
Well, I've heard
he's missing
he's
missing rollout passes and all that.
Yeah, I've heard that Calzada has not looked good. I've heard that Ashford has probably been the best looking quarterback early.
Yep, I agree. I mean, man, I don't know with Auburn, bro. I'm just gonna see. I don't know. Like I told my folks, I ain't stepping the foot into that damn stadium until after the Penn State game. That's gonna let me know what I know. Because I think Penn State losing to Purdue, and I think Penn State is really like a 6-6, 7-5 football team. And if you lose to them at home, that's gonna let me know everything.
Is Penn State week 2?
Week 3.
Week 3. So Auburn opens with, what's their schedule? How's it open?
I know it's like somebody week, then it's San Jose State, which is like a they a solid little group of 5 team. But if they scare you like Georgia State, then I already know it's hands up. Because that's, like I say, that's gonna be telling in itself. And then you got Penn State at home. You got Missouri at home, LSU at home, and if Auburn this is my prediction. Auburn is losing to Ole Miss no matter what this year. I said it here first. Y'all heard it here, and I'm not even like trying to placate. Y'all know how I come.
Sure.
If I think Auburn gonna win a game, I let y'all know. Like, you know what I mean? I think either way, Auburn loses to Ole Miss because just the way the schedule sets up. That Georgia game, let's say somehow by God's grace, Auburn Jesus comes alive, it rises out the dead, and Auburn is undefeated going to Georgia. They beat Penn State, they beat LSU, beat Missouri, whatnot. It's going to be a lot. Auburn is going to put a lot into that game. And if they beat Georgia at Ole Miss, it's a classic, it's an ultimate letdown game. And if they lose, go there and get blown out like Georgia, like I think, they're going to hop in, limp into Oxford, and, they're going to be prime for the taking. I just think that game is a lose-lose for Auburn the way it sets up on the schedule, in my opinion.
I think it's as close to a must-win on the Ole Miss schedule as there is. I mean, if Ole Miss is going to have the 9-win season or 10-win season that people are talking about, Auburn has to be one of them. It just does.
I'm going to be honest. I don't see that. I see like 7-5, 8-4 for Ole Miss.
I've got 8-4, and I wrote this already, and I made some people mad. If you told me I was off a game, I'd go 7-5 before I'd go 9-3. I've got to.
Yeah. They've got 5 gimmies and then 2 probablys, but that includes Auburn, which who the hell knows?
Right.
And then after that, it starts getting a little more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, the tail end of their schedule is just brutal.
And I'm going to say this, I think the football guys helped Ole Miss schedule because before Jahmyr Gibbs transferred, like I think Ole Miss was going to beat Georgia Tech anyway, either way, and I think they was going to lose to Alabama either way.
Sure.
But with Jahmyr Gibbs, a player of his caliber, going to Alabama, it made the Georgia Tech game more of a win and the Alabama game, more of a loss. If you see what I'm saying. Like, I think if Jahmyr Gibbs was playing for Georgia Tech, yeah, Ole Miss is going to win, but hey, you got it. You got to make sure you contain. The linebackers got to be on key. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. I mean, yeah, for sure. I agree with that completely. I mean, the whole. I don't know who's beating Alabama. I don't know that anybody can in the SEC this year. I don't think there's. I don't know that anybody can beat them. If you told me that one team beat them, say it's Ohio State, and that's it.
When was the last time a team had the best offensive and best defensive player in the country on the same team?
I mean, maybe Auburn with Cam Newton and Nick Fairley.
In 2010.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, that's a I'm not like nobody for that LSU team. I'm thinking from that 29 defense really stands out to me.
No,
they
didn't have a dominant defensive player. They were good there. They were just so damn good on offense that it didn't matter.
True. Now, man, this is what I want to really talk to y'all about, man. This conference expansion stuff. Because like y'all, it's like y'all will say something, and I'm like, yep, and then y'all start saying something else, and I'm like, no, I don't agree. I don't think this whole conference expansion thing is as linear as a thinking process as like the media is trying to make it out to be.
Okay.
Because so y'all, why do y'all think that the Big 12 right now is in a better position or is a better league than the ACC when if both teams' granted rights were to come up tomorrow, more ACC teams would be wanted than Big 12 teams?
Well, I mean, that's it, though. The ACC, listen, this is one of those deals where I got to just be kind of careful how I do this. There are multiple ACC teams that are exploring how they can get out. And aggressively behind the scenes. And those schools, it would take a conspiracy a little bit for them to pull it off, but it's doable. If enough of them got together and said, hey, if we all execute an out clause here, there is no penalty because the league ceases to exist. Now, there's a gamble there because they have to know that they have a home to go to. But the truth is most of them do, and they could pull it off. And so that league teeters all the time because I said this on, I guess it was this morning, or maybe it was, I don't know. This is my 5th podcast today. If you're Florida State, and I think they're a great example, okay? If you're Florida State and the Big Ten happens to let you know that they're interested, you have to find a way to do it, whatever it takes, because that is a lifetime parachute that you don't have in the ACC. Because the one thing that the ACC has going against it is they might keep a TV contract, but their rights package is not going to be anything resembling what the SEC schools, what the Big Ten schools are going to get. And it's going to be difficult to compete in that environment. If you're Miami and someone offers you a parachute, you have to take it. If you're Clemson and someone offers you a parachute, and trust me, Clemson's looking for one. If someone offers you a parachute, you have to take it. That's where that league is just not very strong. The schools that are left in the Big 12, they don't have anywhere to go. And so they're going to form and they're going to congregate. And the only thing that the Big 12 schools are going to do is add. They don't have to worry about anybody plucking them anymore because their league's already been plucked.
Okay, well, look. If I'm ESPN, I've been the dominant player owner of college football since you know when. Everything has run through me. We do playoff selection shows and all that. We own these conferences and everything. It doesn't. First off, let's say 2 months ago, Roberts come into the studio after you guys do like a Tuesday pod, tie you guys up, knock y'all out, and then you guys wake up, they got guns to y'all. guns to y'all head, and they say, hey, we know what you guys do for a living.
So you telling me that,
that you guys
neither Gus nor Rizzo came in here to help? That's my problem with that poetry.
Man, no. Gus, they gave them some dog, T-bone steaks, and they was like, man, I never did this.
That's involved. They're done. Fend for yourself.
They gave them 2 T-bone steaks. They was like, ooh, no, man, this different. And so that's what happened, man.
Okay.
And it's a gun to y'all head. And they say, hey, we're gonna ask y'all a question. You have to get it right. If you don't, you die right now. We're gonna, you get one try, and you both of you guys have to say the answer at the same time. And they say the Big Ten is going to add 2 Pac-12 teams, and they say one of those teams is USC. Then they, they do the little click back, load the trigger, and they say, okay, you have to tell us the other team that the Big Ten is going to add. Who are you saying?
I mean, it's easy to say this now because I know I'm right, but I would have said UCLA.
Really?
I would have been very nervous about Oregon or Washington, but I would have said UCLA. I would have.
Really?
Yeah, because I would have looked at them the way that I looked at Texas and Oklahoma, that they were always going to go together.
Well, I just saw it more as the Big Ten has really grabbed these big brands. Like, it's just this. There's something about what they've done, too. Forget football. University.
UCLA?
They care about university.
Yeah, UCLA is a big brand from a university standpoint. It's a brand that sort of fits with Michigan, with Wisconsin, with Ohio State.
UCLA averaged 44,000.
I'm not talking about
attendance and a 90,000.
I'm talking about university. It's a prestigious university.
I would have actually been terrified if I missed.
Okay.
Missed because of
okay.
They're super big into like look, a degree from University of Michigan is prestigious in a lot of.
So you're talking about academics?
Yeah, I'm just talking about the whole thing. There's just an air to it. Like a degree from UCLA is more prestigious than a degree from the University of Oregon.
Okay, well, this is what I'm getting at. I don't think that ESPN is going to sit back and let. Okay, so right now, because I think you was getting at something when months ago when you were saying, hey, the SEC, ESPN, they want USC, they going for USC. I believe that now after seeing what's happened, because the ESPN really doesn't have any moves, while the Big Ten, the board is still open for them theoretically. And this is what I mean. If you're ESPN, you have, as of right now, you have the ACC locked up to 2036. The Pac-12 has just broken up, which is what I thought was interesting. The Pac-12 has broken up, with their grant of rights. And Fox has decided, at first, the Pac-12 had a split deal with Fox and the Pac-12. Fox has decided to pull out, from any Pac-12 negotiations. ESPN offered them $25 million during the window where ESPN was the only negotiator. They could offer them, a deal that was probably, too good to turn down, and the Pac-12 would take it. But the Pac-12 said $25 million per school a year wasn't good enough, so they're on the open market as of right now. But ESPN is still interested in the Pac-12. The Big 12 is coming up in a few years, as we know, and as of right now, they're split with Fox and the Pac-12. And the goal, from what I'm hearing, is that Fox is looking to make the Big 12 solely theirs, just like they've done with the Big 10. The Big 10 and the ESPN, as we know, basically what the Big 10 did, from what I heard, was offer ESPN a worse tier package, what they offered NBC and CBS for, $380 million. And so now, if you're ESPN, as of right now, theoretically, what you're looking at, if the Big 12 does decide to go fully with Fox, you're only looking at the SEC and ACC as your properties in this whole college football thing. And, you're trying to do the Pac-12, but we all agree that the Pac-12 is not going to be worth much. But if you're ESPN, you have to have some type of ownership within this landscape.
Yeah, if you're ESPN, you in that scenario, you could probably get what's left of the Pac-12 for a bargain discount and do some late night stuff and things like that. I mean, look, they're going to spend.
But why would you break up the ACC to allow Fox to acquire those teams, and basically now you're left with the SEC? And what I think honestly, behind the scenes, I think the SEC and ESPN are kind of, on. Now, I'm not going to say bickering, but I don't think they're on the same page at all right now as far as what to do next. Because honestly, from what you reported, from the first few months, when when they were going to SEC Media Days, they were talking about the 3-6, the 1-7, and, you know, it came out. They was like, you know, man, look, there's no pressure on that thing because we're expecting to add teams.
Yeah.
Now, a few months later, after the Big Ten makes their move, it sounds like the SEC is going to stand packed at 16 for a couple of years.
Well,
so,
everybody's waiting to see what Notre Dame does, and Notre Dame holds all the cards, and Notre Dame has some time, and when that goes down, things are going to shake out. But look, here's the thing. Everybody says all the ESPN has is the SEC. That's kind of like saying, I mean, all I have for my steak dinner is a steak and a potato and a salad and an appetizer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot there.
And it's Japanese Wagyu. But.
Yeah, those are massive. Listen, they have massive brands, and they're going to be able to almost every single week put a big-time game at 11, a big-time game in the afternoon, a big-time game at prime time. They're going to be able to do a whole lot. They're still going to have a lot of other games that they can put in that SEC network slot and ESPN2. They can play a game at 8 o'clock. I mean, they can do a lot with that schedule, with Texas and Oklahoma joining the league that already has Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and LSU and Tennessee and Florida and Ole Miss and whoever else is hot that year. There's a lot there, right? There's a lot there. There is.
There is.
It is a tremendous inventory. I mean, you are going to every
even as tremendous as it is, from what everything we've heard with the Big Ten adding USC and UCLA, that move has put the Big Ten and Fox ahead of the SEC, even with Texas and Oklahoma, and we all know that the Big Ten is not done.
No, I don't think they're done, but they have to be careful too, because they're going to what if they don't add Notre Dame? What if Notre Dame goes, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stay independent. Maybe we'll affiliate with you guys loosely, but we're going to stay independent. We're going to have our own deal. Who does the Big Ten add after that that's super sexy? I mean, Oregon? Nah. I mean, maybe they go get North Carolina. Maybe they break up the ACC, at which point the SEC goes, well, like Ryan was saying, and I've heard that too, that, the SEC goes, we'll just do cultural fits and we'll add NC State and we'll add Virginia Tech to our inventory, even though it doesn't do a whole lot for you, but it just adds more inventory. I think people are really underestimating just how strong that 16-team league is going to be when Texas and Oklahoma join. And I'm not talking about from a football standpoint, Brian. I'm talking about from a marketing standpoint. Your ability to, at 11 o'clock in the morning, have Texas at Auburn, at 3 o'clock have Alabama at LSU, at 6 o'clock have Ole Miss at Florida, and then have some 8 o'clock game that is, Georgia at Oklahoma. That is sexy as hell. You don't need much more than that.
Okay, so let me ask you this: Do you think that because ESPN and Fox, they've been playing different games? Like, I don't think, like, what's the UCLA equivalent of, like when people, like, I understand you guys are saying, they're saying, you're saying they're a brand and whatnot. But just look at the teams the Big Ten have had, Rutgers, Maryland in the past years.
Yeah.
I think they're playing a different game than what ESPN is playing, and I think
ESPN
is going to be on the defensive and try to block them.
I don't think you understand how many, and maybe you do, I'm not trying to talk down to you at all. I don't think you understand how many people Wisconsin and Michigan and Iowa and those kind of teams will take out to Pasadena when they play a road game at UCLA. UCLA, I mean, remember when LSU went over there and LSU took – I know they lost the game and we got hung up on Orgeron acting like an idiot. The part that we completely threw out was LSU took 35,000 people to that game. And that will happen routinely with the Big Ten. I think UCLA, its brand from a football standpoint, changes dramatically the day they walk in.
And all those conferences screwed up 12 years ago, whoever it was, because they went too heavy on markets and it didn't matter. They grabbed Maryland and Rutgers, and you're not getting the New York or the D.C. freaking market because you grabbed those. It was a mistake. I mean, it's like Ryan said earlier about if you could go back, you wouldn't want Mizzou now. You'd want somebody else. And, I mean, I get it's not exactly the same thing for a variety of reasons, but it would kind of be like the SEC going, no, we want North Carolina. It's a big national brand. It's a prestigious university that's tied in right there. You know what I mean? Like we can expand and do that. For me, that's the.
So you don't think the news of UCLA of the Big Ten network going from 30 cents to $1.50 in the LA market changes the theory of them adding Maryland, who gives you the DC market, and probably what that bump did for you, and what Rutgers probably did for.
But I don't think it did.
New York bump for you.
But it didn't give them the bump.
Yeah, it
back
didn't
then.
because they overestimated what those teams were in those markets. I mean, frankly,
and I guess and maybe you have the answer to this. I'm legitimately asking: how do we know that was UCLA and not SC? It's the same market.
I mean, that's true, but my thing is, if that's the case, why add both?
Because they wanted the brand.
I think to get,
and they might not could have gotten one without the other.
To get one,
but you say the brand, but Oregon is a bigger brand. The kid from Picayune, the 4-star running back, he's committed to Oregon, not UCLA. The Isaiah Brevard went to Oregon, not UCLA. Jason Jones from Alabama went to Oregon, not UCLA.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Big Ten chancellors and presidents wanted UCLA.
Do you think the Big Ten ever tries to expand south?
Yes.
I think that's problematic for ESPN because you can't expand north as of right now.
Sure you can.
Where?
Virginia Tech would jump in a second. If the SEC called Virginia Tech and said, "Hey, we want you, figure it out,"
they'd figure it out.
They would dump the ACC unceremoniously and do it tomorrow.
Okay, let's say that. Okay.
From a market standpoint, you'd get more of the DC market with Virginia Tech than you would Maryland.
Okay, let's say the ACC breaks up right now, and the SEC can only add 2 teams. What 2 teams? Are you giving them? Y'all 2 are the commissioners right now.
I'm taking North Carolina and whoever North Carolina wants me to take. Because North Carolina is the same thing as UCLA in a lot of ways. If North Carolina goes from hosting Wake Forest and Duke to hosting Alabama and Tennessee, it's going to look different at that stadium. It's going to sound different at that stadium. They would fit in. They would quickly become a kind of a sexy school in the league.
So ESPN would be fine with the Big Ten, or not the Big Ten, but Fox having a foothold in southern territory like Miami and Atlanta.
I don't think ESPN.
If you're ESPN, would you want? If you're the SEC, if you're Sankey, would you want Virginia or Virginia Tech? Because that's more the argument of what we're making. Virginia Tech is by far the most interesting.
But if you're ESPN, do you really want Fox to be able to put Ohio State at Georgia Tech or Michigan at Miami? While you're, do you really want that though?
I don't think either one of those programs scare the hell out of anybody. And I just don't.
Especially Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. I mean, the SEC owns that market. I mean,
but I don't see how we can pump up UCLA when Georgia Tech has more all-time wins, is just as academically prestigious, and it has been more relevant over the past years. We're running a triple option. They've been to multiple New Year's Six bowls.
Yeah,
I know they're down now, but I mean
they have a spread out alumni base. It's not concentrated. You're not getting market. Atlanta citizens are watching SEC, not Georgia Tech.
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta's one of our top 5 markets almost every single month. You've got.
No, well, I'm talking about from a Big Ten standpoint. From the Big Ten, you don't think going into Atlanta offers a gold mine
that would perk the Big Ten's ears up more than it would the SEC?
Yeah, they can make some money off of it, but I mean, Georgia Tech's not.
And if you're ESPN, do you want Fox to be able to make that much more money than you by invading your territory?
Big Ten, am I expanding? I go after Virginia. I want Virginia.
To answer your question, I don't think ESPN SEC would care. I go back to what I said a minute ago. The adding Oklahoma and Texas to that brand, which is already the strongest brand, adding Oklahoma and Texas to that brand is really sexy. The only move that the Big Ten can make that's going to rock the SEC is Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Notre Dame. If Notre Dame joins the Big Ten as a full-fledged member, the SEC has to have a meeting. They have to sit down and go, okay, what do we do? We got because we have to answer that. But if the Big Ten wants to dilute their product,
do you think that happens? Do you think that happens though? Because I think that happens.
As of today, I'm like 40-60 that it does. I tend to lean that it doesn't, at least for now. I think Notre Dame just doesn't want to do it. But so anything other than that, like adding Georgia Tech, adding Miami, adding Florida State, all you're really kind of doing is just diluting your brand. you're adding your footprint a little bit, but you're not doing that. None of those teams change the game the way USC does.
No, I don't think you add Florida State. Like Florida State does nothing for the SEC. Florida State does way more for the Big 12. I'm just speaking as from it's more of ESPN being on a defensive front than being on an attacking front. That's that's basically what because you don't want Fox to just.
You might know more. I know, but right now I don't think ESPN's defensive at all. I don't think the league. I don't think the SEC is doing anything other than just kind of watching the landscape. I mean, the only team that the SEC right now would just go jump at is if Notre Dame called and said we want to join, they'd take them like in an instant. But Notre Dame doesn't want to join the SEC. It's not going to want to join the SEC. And as long as Notre Dame's sitting independent, the SEC's it's sitting pretty. It's fine. And it's about to make an absolute ton of money. It's going to make so much money. And this is the part that everybody's going to have to wait until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
When the SEC starts making the money on its new deal, because it's not making the money right now. It's money's down the road. But when the SEC starts making the money on their new deal, those ACC schools are going to look at it and go, we have to do something. And the urge.
You don't think ESPN will throw them a little extra to calm down so they can keep that inventory so the Big 12. So Fox doesn't just.
I really
don't think so.
I really don't.
You don't think they try to appease at the ACC kind of how they're trying to appease the Pac-12 now?
Not really. I don't. I mean, I don't. That's
okay.
Educated.
I was going to ask you. Hold on. What were you saying?
And that's a pretty educated opinion. That's not just me talking.
Okay. I take that.
I think ESPN believes that it has a 16-team league that it can literally just live off of.
I just wonder what a nationwide Big Ten conference looks like. I'm just curious, and I'm not sure ESPN wants to. But I mean, like, hey, you just said, that's educated, so hey, maybe they're fine with it. So I was gonna ask you guys about some
the parts of the country that are college football crazy. The SEC has it. It has Texas. It has Florida. It's got Louisiana and Alabama, and here's the part that I'm trying to get to. That's the bottom line in my eyes. If the SEC decides it needs to expand, it will have no problem expanding, because when the schools start seeing the money that these leagues are going to make, they'll figure it out. And listen, everybody does this thing about the Big Ten wants to add this school and this school and this school and this school. Well, Fox has to be willing to make that much more money, and it's not like
I think Kevin Warren, who I think is a mouthpiece for Fox. He runs their biggest conference, their moneymaker. He said that like you said at their media days, hey, they're looking to expand and whatnot. I think they're aggressive right now.
They are, but at the end of the day, Kevin Warren's not the guy writing what would be a $500 million a year check. And so he's got to convince Fox that adding Georgia Tech or adding Miami is truly worth it. And that's where the rubber hits the road a little bit. It's one thing to say you're going to do all this stuff. It's like there was all this talk about the SEC adding Arizona State. And the thing about that is ESPN has to sign off on that. ESPN's going to sign off on Texas, on Oklahoma, because duh. But after that, it gets kind of squirrely. And that's why I think as long as Notre Dame sits there and goes, we're cool with where we are, and Notre Dame's going to make a ton of money off NBC one way or the other, as long as that happens.
Yeah, I'm hearing $75 million a year right now.
Yeah, and so I think the SEC will sit tight with ESPN for a little while and watch the landscape. And again, once people realize that SEC schools are, say, cutting, everybody's getting 111. I always use Mississippi State as an example. When North Carolina making 20-something million a year on its TV deal looks up and sees Mississippi State making 111 million, Arkansas making 111 million, there's going to be meetings there where they go, what are we doing? And that's where I think things are going to move at that point.
That's true. I'm gonna let you guys watch that first scrimmage, and then I'm gonna hit you guys with some over-unders for the offense and defense. Y'all was pretty good last year, so I'm gonna see what y'all hitting on this year. I'm gonna get these answers off the air. Is the Pac-12 and the ACC, are they still around on January 1st, 2028? and I'll hang up, get it off the air. I appreciate the show, man. You guys have a good night.
Thanks,
appreciate it, bud.
January 1st, 2028, Pac-12, Big 12. Yeah.
Yeah, in some form.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is far stronger.
That's what I think, too.
The Big 12's 3.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is going to be able to add what it needs to add to be a respectable league.
Their champion will get in. We'll see from there. Their champion will get in.
I think when the money starts rolling around, it's going to be a 16-team playoff.
Okay, fair.
Because there's going to be multiple networks. You'll get 4 first-round games. Be a ton of cash.
Yeah. 4-2, Cubs over Reds, bottom of the 8th. Neil's Cubbies making a run toward the playoffs now. Field of Dreams game.
Yeah. They're not doing this next year.
No, they're not.
Because they're doing construction or something out there in Iowa or whatever. So they're not doing it. They're not doing this game next year.
Oh.
You said ACC. Is ACC existing?
No.
Yeah, I would say 2018.
2028.
2028 is what I meant.
That's really soon. If you said 2032, I'll say no.
Yeah, 5-6 years.
Feels fast.
Maybe, yeah. If you told me 2032, I'd say no.
Yeah, I think that's a good over-under, but I think it's somewhere in that window. Somewhere in there.
I think it breaks up.
Yeah.
It's weak. It feels really weak. Like the Pac-12 could do some things. The Pac-12 could add a San Diego State or a whatever and get back up to 12. It'd be watered down. And if you told me because of their geographics that an ESPN threw a contract at them to give them some Friday night programming, a late Saturday game, et cetera, I can see that. But again, I just think that SEC inventory is going to be so strong.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I don't think so. I got a little rattled for a second. I guess, I don't know. I saw John Smoltz on a death day up there for a second.
I think it was his father.
Yeah, it was. But I had a little bit of a moment there for a second. But I don't know. I mean, scrimmage on Saturday. We'll see what it looks like. Be in attendance for that. Very important day for Ole Miss. Open to fans as well. They are saying 11:30 on a start time, but that could change. But as of right now, 11:30 for a start time.
Could
on
move
Saturday.
up or back, do you know?
Earlier in the morning was the way I interpreted that. Yes. So
because 11:30 is awfully hot.
Yeah, I think it's 11:30 now. But if you told me it ends up being 9:30 or 10, I won't be shocked. By the time they get going,
I'll be the only guy kind of keeping an eye on Chelsea, Tottenham, in the entire stadium.
I think that's fair. Yes,
it's a big game in our house.
Just be trying to hydrate and stay cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm glad we got the phone thing worked out. Our thanks to Ryan Brown. Don't forget, this is brought to you by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. If you are in the Oxford, Tupelo area, call the people at Comer, 662-801-1777. Eric Payne and all the people there will take great care of you. And then it's the same great products, really the same people, same services. If you live in the Hernando area, the Memphis area, call the people at Southern Air Conditioning and Heating, 662-429-4429. Make sure you tell them that you appreciate them making this show possible. We'll be back with you every Thursday night throughout the football season, all the way through the Super Bowl. So it's a fun show for us. I'm glad I got the phone thing figured out. So we'll be good to go. We'll make this, again, the Friday morning podcast. I think what we're going to do is make it 2 podcasts. We'll have a podcast that was our show with Ryan, and then we'll have the call-in show because there's some people out there that don't like the calls, and it's just fine. So you like what you like, don't like what you don't like.
You don't even have to turn it off. The show just ends.
The show will just end. So if you don't want to listen to calls,
want the rest,
if you don't want to listen to calls, don't. And if you do want to listen to calls, do.
Free country.
Pretty simple. You don't even have to tell us. We'll never know.
See it.
We'll see it, but we won't really know. So it's okay. So, again, thanks to Ryan Brown for his time from the next round. For Chase, I'm Neil. We will be back with you again on Monday morning with another edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. Until then, have a great night, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.